Bam! What up, guys? We are live. So we got an epic panel for you today. I'm going to be moderating. The only person who couldn't make it was NotsoErudite. Everyone else is here. So we got Andrew from the Crucible. We got Mr. Slave, Wheat Waffles, and Dr. Christy Winters. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off by doing an introduction. Everyone's going to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to let the chat decide which topics we're going to debate. I have quite a few ideas. So let's just go in like clockwise order. Let's start with you, Andrew. Just do a quick introduction, and we'll just have everyone introduce themselves and a very rough summary of what you believe.
Yeah, sure. My name is Andrew Wilson. I am the host of the Crucible, a debate channel. We've had probably every major e-celeb come through that you can imagine, done debates on the channel, or I've debated with them myself. You can catch me there. You can catch live debates weekly. We also do different segments like the Trash Talk Extravaganza, where I take my favorite streamers and completely and totally humiliate them for my own personal amusement because I'm a jerk. So that's basically where I stand and who I am.
All right, Dr. Christy.
Yeah, Christy is fine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I can hear the echo again.
Yeah, I need to mute. Everybody is wrong about everything. Can you mute yourself really quick?
I'll mute him. Bam. Done.
Brilliant. That also solves the problem. So hello from Germany at like 10 o'clock in the evening, where I live and work. I'm Christy. I guess why I'm here mostly is because I have a PhD in government, but really it's in elections. My thesis focused on whether sex or gender are better explanatory predictors for how people like their values and behavior, but that's really too nerdy for this. So basically I have a little bit of an expertise in feminism as well as quantitative and qualitative methods. I also lean to the left, and I guess I'm here to sort of like discuss my perspective as a feminist.
Cool. All right, let's Wheat Waffles, you're up next.
Yes, I run a YouTube channel of I think just over 100,000 subscribers. I think I might be on 110 now or so. And I'm the largest Black Pill content creator, which for anyone who doesn't know, Black Pill is kind of an extension of the Red Pill, but more looks focused, to put it simply. Black Pillers believe that looks is the most important thing and that there's not much you can do to change your looks as well. Although there are like some exceptions to that, so we basically believe that looks is over half and the amount you can do to change your looks is under half. So your looks is mostly determined by your facial genetics and your height, your frame, and so on. But then the last portion of the things that you can change to do with your appearance makes up the last bit. So improving your physique in the gym, your grooming, fashion, and so on.
Okay, cool. Let's have Mr. Slave introduce himself. Okay.
Hey, I'm a slave, and my queen will be with us shortly. I can't say anything about myself. I'm in hiding. But in general, I'm a real feminist. I don't think feminists are feminists. I am a feminist.
Okay.
That's it.
Cool. Awesome.
Alex, just quickly, can you turn him down a little bit? He's like blasting my ears out compared to the other people that are talking.
I don't know if I can do that on my end.
Go to his picture, click the three dots on his picture.
Okay.
Click the audio and see if you have audio control.
All right, mic volume. It won't. Okay, automatically turn mic volume. Okay, I think I got it. There we go.
Yeah, only a tad. Like he was just a bit louder, I noticed, compared to the other people.
And if you're getting a lot of feedback from him, Alex, you can just mute him and then unmute him.
Is this better? I just turned him down by 30%.
I'll just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it's much better.
That's perfect. No, that's much better now. Yeah.
All right, guys. So anyway, we're gonna have you guys vote on the topic. There's 3 topics that we're kicking around. Okay, we're gonna mute Mr. Slave. Okay, there we go. So there's 3 topics we're kicking around. I want you to put a 1 in the chat if you want the debate topic to be, are women too privileged in today's society? I want you to put a 2 in the chat if you want the debate to be, what makes a man attractive? Number 3 in the chat if it should be, should men be dominant? So again, 1 if you want the topic to be, are women too privileged in today's society? 2 if you want, what makes a man attractive? And 3, should men be dominant? So we're going to let you guys vote for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And then after that, we're going to get into it. All right, I see a bunch of ones and a bunch of twos. I don't see any threes. That's interesting. Oh, I see a lot of twos, but I also see a good amount of ones. Yeah, this is definitely threes out.
Well, let's just do 1 and 2.
I see 1 and 2. Okay.
Well, haven't you put a poll in the chat, and that's getting mostly what makes a man attractive?
Duh. Yeah, that's a good idea. Now, how the hell do I do a poll?
I can see the results of the poll. 60% saying what makes the man attractive, 26% saying women too privileged, and 14% saying men should be more dominant.
Okay, let's go with number 2 then. All right.
So have you got like somebody in the background who's organizing the, live chat or something? Maybe one of your moderators did the poll.
Oh, yeah, probably. But anyway, okay, so we got what makes a man attractive. That'll be the debate topic if we run through it really fast. Then we will move on to number 1. But anyway, okay, what makes a man attractive will be the debate topic. So the rules that I am going to enforce are going to be no significant talking over. A little bit of back and forth is fine, but if one person doesn't get a chance to speak continuously, I will mute the other person. And that's basically it, honestly. Or also, if the debate gets really derailed and it goes off topic, I will be like, that's not relevant, and that you have to present a case for why what the tangent you're going on is relevant. That's going to be it. But we're going to generally try to keep the topic on track. We'll try to be as fair and objective as possible to all parties, which is why, again, I'm going to be moderating. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting discussion. So we're going to start off, and this is going to be the only formal part of the debate. Everyone's going to have a minute or two. Again, take as long as it gets you need, but keep it to a minute or two to just give your overall perspective on this topic. And then after that, it's going to be like kind of a free-for-all. And I think we got the left and the right represented pretty well. So again, we're going to go in the same order. Andrew, just give your thoughts, an opening statement on what do you think makes a man attractive to a woman?
So I don't really think about that often, right? I leave that to, like Fruit Loops who sit around and postulate that all the time, what makes men attractive. I can tell you what I think doesn't make a man attractive is being on his knees, chained up to, some woman while he's sitting on the floor. I would say that that's probably not a very attractive quality. I can mostly look at the things that I think probably wouldn't be attractive, but I don't know what makes women tick. Nobody knows what makes women tick. There's something seriously wrong upstairs with most of them, right? There's that whole scale, the craziness to attractiveness scale, right? The more attractive they are, the more Looney Tunes they tend to be. So I don't really know exactly what makes a man attractive to a woman. That's for you, like pickup artists and degens. You guys sit around and think that up. I've been married for 14 years. I don't think about that stuff at this point.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Christy, you're up next.
Yes. So here's the thing is, women run the ages from 18 to 80. And I don't know what a person would find attractive at a certain point of life or because of their hobbies or whatever else. So I don't think that it's easy to say. I think there's a tendency to do kind of ecological fallacies, which is to look at things in the aggregate or look at Evo Psych and then try to apply that to individuals. And that never really works because people are individual and they aren't also just one thing their whole lives. Like their life experience changes them. So in terms of what a person will find attractive, whoever it is, I think it ultimately is so subjective that it's almost meaningless to try to generalize about it.
Okay, Wheat Waffles.
Okay, I have a very different point of view to Christy. I don't buy the subjective narrative that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I am very much more so believe that what makes a man attractive is objective. And I'm just going to approach this question with like a list because it's such a multifaceted question. Like there's, so many different things that go into it. So I'm just going to list off things that make a man attractive, but not necessarily in the right order. So a good jawline, low body fat percentage, symmetrical face, clear skin, good eye area, full head of hair, 6'3" to 6'4" height, but 6 foot and above isn't that bad. Good physique, broad shoulders, narrow waist, wider hips to waist ratio. Money comes into it as well. Status is attractive too. Good social skills is also an element. Confidence, of course. Yeah, so all of those things that I listed, I think, go into it. And also youth, that's probably a big one as well. I don't think many women are finding 50, 60, 70-year-old men too attractive. The most attractive people out there, like when you look at male models, the highest paid ones are in their 20s, if not 30s.
All right, cool. And then Mr. Slave, what makes a man attractive?
What makes a man attractive?
He said Mr. Slave, so I guess he's asking me.
Yeah.
Well, either one of you guys. You guys are now formally known as either Mr. Slave or Team Slave.
Confidence. Physically, I guess it depends on the person.
Right. But I think you also have to be sensitive to the emotional needs and all the needs of the woman. If you're not sensitive, then you're not going to last. And if you don't actually do anything in the relationship, it's not going to last. I mean, maybe you can be a model and attract attention for the first couple of seconds, but in the long run, you have to be a very nice person. You have to be a good listener. You just have to be a really nice person. So you got to be a nice guy. So ultimately, it's being a nice guy. Nice guys finish last, but they get the best results.
Okay. Now we're going to open it up. It's going to be more of a free-for-all style. So let's just minimize the talking over and bam.
Yes.
So
if you don't mind, Mr. Slave, that's the stupidest shit that I ever heard in my entire life. Where did you ever come up with this absurd idea that women want simps? They use you for gifts and your money, and then they toss you in the trash can, which basically is where you belong, right? That's kind of what you get for being a simp, isn't it?
No, you get that regardless, whether you're a simp or not.
No, you don't get that regardless. Where'd you come up with that?
Just now, I just came up with it.
Yeah.
I would treat every man the same. It's just, if someone's treating me well, I'll have them around more. But if they're an asshole, why would I keep them around?
Well, I don't know. You need to ask all of your female comrades that same question, because seemingly what women seem to be the most attracted to or the most into are jerks, assholes, pricks. Otherwise, you end up with a chain around your neck and, you're on the ground in front of a woman, right?
I guess it depends on what kind of women you're trying to attract. If you're attracting low quality women that have low self-esteem, of course they're going to go for jerks because that's all they can get. But
I don't think you're qualified to tell us what a high quality woman is.
But
right?
where are you getting your qualifications to make comments on what women find attractive when you're a guy who's presumably not attracted to men? I mean, even if you say that you're appealing to the empirical evidence, even if you say that you're appealing to the empirical evidence, what you're talking about are, again, overgeneralizations, and probably with women under the age of 25. Women get older than 25, and what women want is not easily say, oh, all women want jerks. That's like saying that, all women want to marry their mothers. You can say that, and maybe for some people it's the case, but to denigrate like everybody and just kind of honestly like be rude, I don't understand how you think that that's gonna like make a good point.
Let me
if
ask
you want to say that there are,
you,
if you want to say, just let me
finish.
If you want to say that there are toxic elements in relationships, then I'd have to ask, what's the relationship that these women had with their fathers? Maybe that toxic relationship is repeating a pattern because they had a bad relationship with their dad. So this isn't just like a women want X and men are being taken advantage of. There's a dynamic going on which is affecting both men and women. And also, we're only talking about straight couples. I just point this out. But there are dynamics that we come to relationships with that are patterns from previous toxic dynamics. So to kind of make this about women having this, deciding that they want to go for jerks, I think is pretty simplistic.
Now, Christy, can I ask you a question? Are you married?
Does it matter?
It does matter.
Why? Okay.
Well, because if you start the conversation off by asking what my qualifications are, well, I've been married for 14 years and I have
one woman.
And I have 5 daughters.
To one woman, right? But you're not
dating
your daughters.
Let me finish.
You're not dating your daughters.
But my daughters do. But my daughters do date, right?
Okay, so your daughters are jerks who are trying to manipulate men?
No,
Is
but
that
I
what
can
you're
see
saying?
the type of men that women generally are attracted to. I can still use my powers of observation to see
Okay,
that
so who are some of these women?
being chained up on the floor.
So where do you live?
Wait. Do you
Wait,
notice?
Alex, you
Do you
kept
notice
Alex,
that
can I
this
just say,
guy-
Alex, that you was like, you was telling Andrew to be quiet earlier when
Yeah,
for interrupting Christy, but then I'm not being funny, but Christy just interrupted like three,
You're
four
right.
times.
No, you're right. You're right.
I was literally about to just say that. Actually,
It's okay. It's all right. I don't mind. I don't mind that stuff. So I just wanted to get into it though, right? It does matter. Are you or aren't you? My guess is no, right?
I'm not going to answer the question because it's irrelevant to the question about what women find attractive.
Well, even if it is,
the question isn't what does
just
Christy
humor,
find
just
attractive?
humor us. Is Christy married?
I'm not going to say. It's
right.
really
You're
irrelevant.
not going to say, right?
No.
It's
Well,
ad
here's-
hominem. Stop
so
the ad hominem.
it's not an ad hom.
Slave, hang
It's
on.
a privacy issue.
It's not even an ad hom. You don't know what you're talking about as usual, Mr. Slave. So my guess is that Christy is not married. Most sociologists, especially female sociologists, are always great at telling you what women and men and what makes them tick.
Isn't it great that I'm not a
But
sociologist?
Wait,
inside-
let me finish, please.
Inside you're a political scientist, right? Aren't you a political scientist?
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, I'm asking you a question now.
Yes, I'm an empirical.
It doesn't matter.
survey
Yeah.
quantitative political
So
scientist.
I'm just curious, right? I see one guy down on his knees, an unmarried degen in the center who has an open relationship with his girlfriend. An unmarried over the hill woman, and I don't even know where Wheat Waffles is, and you want to have a productive conversation about what women find attractive. I find
Then
this
I suggest you
humorous,
leave.
right?
I
find it
suggest you
humorous.
leave because we want to have that conversation.
And
Clearly you don't.
having it. We're having it, but I'm pointing out the irony of it. That's all. Just pointing out that it's ironic to me.
Okay. Who wants to make a point next?
I'm happy to give Andrew a run for his money because I do disagree with him slightly on the point he made earlier that women just chase jerks, but I'm going to come at it from a completely different angle than to what Christy was going down. I don't think women are attracted to jerks just for the sake of them being jerks. Rather, I think that women are attracted to men that are attractive. In other words, like good looking, have attractive features. Like if a guy is ugly and he's a jerk, women aren't going to be attracted to them. Rather,
they will if he has a lot of money.
Rather, women are going to be attracted to the men that are attractive, that are good looking, high status, and rich, that tick all the three boxes of LMS: looks, money, status.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with being a jerk or not.
Okay. So hang on. I'll go ahead and concede a couple of points, right? I tend to agree with you that obviously women are going to want the cream of the crop when it comes to men, even like 3s, 4s, 5s. They still want the cream of the crop when it comes to men. And women have become entitled little snot bitches, haven't they? Where they think that if they're a 6, they're somehow entitled to a 10, right? I see a lot of that. So I'll concede a little bit of ground here on that point. But, you haven't really dove into the money effect. And how often you see older men who are really rich and ugly as sin who have hot 20-year-old women.
But this is just beta boxing. That's not real attraction. Like these women don't actually like these guys, and the women have all of the leverage in these relationships as well. Just a man having money that isn't attractive, and you actually see in cases where the man runs out of money. Let's say that he goes bankrupt, his business goes tits up, whatever happens, that the woman leaves him as soon as he loses his money, which proves that there's no underlying attraction there.
She'll leave him if he's 10 and rich too and take half his shit. Like that's not the prerogative for a woman being attracted to a man is definitely different. Men are visual. We're much more visual when it comes to that. Women can have different criteria that they're attracted to. Take an ugly bastard like Sean Connery, and that's a good example of an old man that women seem to just like throw themselves at, and he's ugly as sin, right? Wheat Waffles.
Are you talking about Sean Connery today, or are you talking about in his prime?
Even today, they go fucking
in his
ape
prime.
shit
He was in his prime. He was a Chad. He was James Bond, for God's sake, and he was
but I'm talking about that motherfucker when he was in the movie The Rock. You know what I mean? He was old. He was haggard, right? Something about the accent, I guess, must have did it for him because they just threw themselves at the guy.
Okay, this is a very isolated example, and I don't think it's representative of the wider population. Like these aren't the these one-off celebrities that are, past prime, and like you get a handful of women that are still going crazy for them. It's not representative of the wider population. Like if you just look at the mainstream media, who are the face of, who's shoved in the face of women more than anyone else? Like if you look at TikTok, Instagram, it's the chads, it's the stereotypical guys who are in their early 20s, late 20s, early 30s at the most, tall, jacked, low body fat percentage, good face, etc.
What the hell are you talking about? Some of the ugly. Now, look, let's take news networks as a great example of this, right? Lots of hot women on news networks, lots of ugly fucking men, though, right? Whole lot of ugly men on news networks not being shoved down your throat. The T and A from hot women's being shoved down your throat, but not Chad men, right? That seems to not be a demographic that's pushed as much as the young, beautiful 20, 25-year-old women, right? Wheat Waffles.
Yeah, I would say that probably is quite accurate, but I do get what you mean. As in, when you look at like news shows or anything on mainstream TV, you're probably more likely to see an ugly man than an ugly woman. Like, it's more.
So Wheat Waffles, what's the answer? What's your answer? He just completely destroyed your entire philosophy, completely annihilated to zero.
Mr. Slave, I think Andrew can speak for himself. Thank you very much.
No, just answer the question. You're avoiding answering the question. Andrew spoke.
Okay,
now answer. Don't repeat the question.
I'm answering the question. Yeah, like even when
I let my slaves speak for me from time to time. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mr. Wheat Waffles, your entire philosophy has been completely annihilated. Don't repeat the question. Just answer.
Well, I was about to answer the question until you interrupted me for a second time. But anyway,
there you go.
I will agree with what Andrew said, that you're more likely to see a ugly man on these media networks than an ugly woman
because you can push.
But even when you look at the men, like they on average are going to be more attractive, and
no,
I don't know about
in terms of measuring their attractiveness. They're not. Hang on. I gotta cut in for just a second. Hang on, I'll give it right back to him. I just got to make a quick clarification here, right? Because you're just objectively wrong about this. Ed Schultz looked like he had a pair of balls attached to his chin. Wheat Waffles. He was ugly as sin. He was a fat fuck. Alan Combs, ugly, wormy, squeamy little guy.
Rush Limbaugh.
Right, Rush Limbaugh. He's a good example too. Men of status. That's why. It's because they have status. They can still be pushed because they have status. Whereas the female anchors, where's all the old haggard female anchors? Well, they're nowhere, right? They're nowhere, anywhere. Only the hot
clarification. I see. Okay, Wheat Waffles, finish your point.
Yeah, well, if you want to go to the mainstream, then just take a look at movies. Who are the people that are playing the jocks and main male star, the chads of the movie? It's going to be somebody like Chris Hemsworth, isn't it?
It's going to be a bunch of 50-year-old men who are pretending they're high school
students. It's not 50-year-old men.
Yeah,
it's going to be the chads. These are the guys who play the romance lover, the like main star of the movie that women are going after. But then when you look at the person that they employ for the guy who's the butt of all of the jokes, who do they get? In that kind of role, it's the unattractive, overweight guy. Like who was the one in The Wolf of Wall Street? Alex, you know his name because I remember you bringing up in there.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, who was the overweight guy?
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill, yeah, him. Like they always get the overweight, unattractive guy who plays the butt of all of the jokes, and he's the laughing stock of the movie. But then the attractive person is the one who who's the actual love interest. Is the Chad.
No, you're wrong. The reason that they have the comedic effect of having a fat guy there to take the butt of the jokes is because it's fun to laugh at fat people. And we've all been doing it for as long as we've been alive. And we're going to keep doing it because it's fun to watch fat ass Chris Farley roll down a hill. It's fun to watch that. I don't know why it's fun to watch it, but men like to watch that shit. We like to watch other men getting hurt for no particular reason. That's why you have shows like Jackass that did so well, movies like Jackass that did so well. Now, when you move over to entertainment, especially, no, there's all kinds of smarmy little non-Chad men who take leading roles all the time. Case in point, a name you brought up, Leonardo DiCaprio. He was the main lead in the Titanic. Not the chadliest, studliest looking guy I ever saw, I gotta tell you. Not the type of dude who's 6'4" and bench pressing, 350 pounds and this type of thing, right? He's kind of a short, skinny, scrawny nobody, right? But he got the leading role, was a mega hit, and the whole thing was a love story, right?
Okay, he might not have been the tallest or the jackedest of the movie. They probably could have got somebody who had more potential in that department. But in terms of facial attractiveness, he is probably the top 1% in Hollywood that you could.
What are you talking? He looks like a.
Can I ask a question?
You're Andrew. The problem is, can I just say one more thing?
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Andrew, you're thinking too much to the male gaze. I can tell that's what you're doing because you're mainly thinking about how jacked a guy is and how tall he is, how good of a fighter he might be. Because you describe Leonardo DiCaprio as just some skinny dude, but according to the female gaze, Leonardo DiCaprio is extremely attractive, especially when he was in his prime, when he played the role for Titanic, because he's got an extremely attractive face. This is what women are actually thinking about in terms of attractiveness, because he's got the really good eye area, almond eye shape, really good hair, jawline, etc. Like that's what women would see as an extremely attractive face.
Okay, we're going to let Andrew respond really quickly, and then we're going to go to Christy. Go ahead.
Okay, my point is these giant Momoa style characters who are just these massive buff chadly looking dudes, as you might consider them. They don't always or even often play leading roles in these romantic comedies or Hollywood comedies. A lot of these things are done by connection anyhow. But when we're talking about mass media in general, it's tits and ass from young women that is pushed, not chadly or studly men. And I can give you example after example after example of that being true. Basically, once a woman hits 40, they're out, right? They're out. They're playing either the grandma on screen for Hollywood, or they're not getting the anchor role. They're not getting any of that unless they get all the plastic surgery on earth to try to make them look like 20-year-old women again. So no, I disagree heavily. I don't think that the media is necessarily pushing the chadliest looking men. I think that they actually push girly looking men, or they push these ugly bastards like you find on Fox News and CNN. And like she said, Rush Limbaugh, these types of people. It's easy to become very popular and be a high status man, even if you're ugly as sin, Wheat Waffles.
All right, let's let Christy go, and then yeah, go ahead.
So a couple of things. One, I want to just do, I don't want to say a correction, but your use of the male gaze and the female gaze was unfamiliar to me. So, I mean, I'm on my phone, right? So forgive me for using Wiki, but my understanding of the male gaze, which is confirmed here, is that it's the act of depicting women in the visual arts from a male heterosexual perspective in such a way that the male gaze is the man behind the camera, the men in the cinematic representation. So the actors, like, how do they view the women, and then the spectator. And the idea is it's a sexualization and a reduction of women, not that it's a hot guy. So I just wanted to know, like, where you got your info on that, if that's what you meant. And then in terms of the female gaze, I did look that up too. I don't find an equivalent version of the female gaze here. What I do have is that it's a feminist theory term referring to the gaze of the female spectator character in directional arts. It has more than gender as an issue. It's, I guess it is in some ways, I'm sorry, I should say it's about the male gaze, which represents not only the gaze of heterosexual male viewer, but also the gaze of the male character. And in contemporary usage, the female gaze has been used to refer to how the perspective of a female director brings to a film that might be presented differently from the view of a male of the subject. So just that. And then also, because of the conversation you're having, it kind of asked me to have you both step back. So, I mean, Wheat Waffles, your argument was that women find certain things attractive, and I think Andrew's was that men find certain things attractive, and you're pointing to media as a representation of why that's the case. But I would point to the fact that if you look at who is in control, who writes the scripts, who directs it, who produces it, who casts it, who markets it, it is predominantly men. So clearly it is men who are feeding into these narratives, who are eliminating women who they think are too old, whether or not the audience wants to get rid of them. And so by pointing to the media as an evidence for your argument, you're kind of pointing to actually the construction of a reality, not reality itself. Because Wheat Waffles, when I look around, when I hear your description of what apparently I find attractive, which isn't what I find attractive, that's such a small percentage of the population that whatever your percentage or perception of attractiveness is, there aren't enough men in that category for the available heterosexual women out there. And when I go out in my normal day, I see couples together of different body sizes, of similar body sizes, of different ages together. And so clearly women are having relationships with men that are very much outside of the very narrow spectrum you drew. That's just like looking outside and thinking about your family members. Like, is everyone in your family married to somebody super hot? Because my family isn't. So I just kind of think there's a disconnect here in your argument between using the media as evidence for what people in real life think, when the media is completely constructed by predominantly like what men think people want.
Yeah, but
I've got something really important to say. I thought you was going a little bit off track in the middle of that, but you kind of got back to it towards the end. Like, I do actually somewhat agree with you, on the point that you made on the last sentence, where like the media is mostly constructed by men, so it is going to have their influence on it in some respect. But here's a more authentic and naturally emerging example. When you look at TikTok, like, we all know what TikTok is. It's just short clips of people doing a silly little dance or like comedic video or whatever. It's only like 20 seconds long for each clip. And the way that a particular person or video will get pushed to the top and be shown in the faces of thousands, if not millions of people, is based on how well it plays with the algorithm. So if people watch the video for long enough, and lots of people do that, then the video is going to be very popular, and then the algorithm is going to push it to the top. So then it gets shown to even more people. It's completely naturally emerging if you look at it in that respect. There's no man behind a directing chair who's, hiring and firing people and choosing what person participates in the set. So if we go based on this, when you look at when you look at TikTok, the guys that are the most popular are the chads that I've been talking about all along, the ones with the good jawline, the good hair, who are young, low body fat percentage, and so on and so forth. I'm repeating myself here, but this shows, I believe it's a really convincing point that it shows that if you go back to the original question, what makes a man attractive, the natural emergence of these attractive men shows that.
Okay. I have two follow-up questions related directly to that. All right, Andrew.
Wait, Mr. Slave, let's let Christy respond, because and then you're going to be right after Christy. Okay, go ahead.
One, does your TikTok example control for gay men? Because you're gay men viewers would go for exactly that kind of stereotype body type you're talking about, and if you're conflating all of that to straight women, I think that there's a spurious correlation problem in there. And two, would you also be willing to stipulate or agree that what someone finds attractive but who they date might not be a perfect match? In other words, I can look at an actor and think he's hot, but the people in real life that I date don't look like that actor. So I'm just wondering. Those are my two questions.
Whoa! The original question was
what makes, respond really quickly, and then it's Mr.
The original question was what makes a man attractive, not what makes a man somebody that you would want to date. So I think you're kind of,
that's fair.
derailing
That's
a little bit here.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't think that point is relevant. That second question. As for the first one, if I'm honest, it really did sound like a clutch at the straws. Like, the gay population, I don't know the exact figures, but
on TikTok
it's less than 5%. It's less than 5% of the population, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the
less
exact
than
numbers.
that. It's less than that.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, for gay men, it's less than that.
Yeah. So and most of my audience are heterosexual, who are interested in dating women, and so they're going to be interested in what those women find attractive. So, things might be slightly different for gay men. I don't know, but just based on my audience and what they're looking for, they're trying to find out what women find attractive.
Yeah, how many gay I don't even get this. How is it a spurious connection? How many gay men do you think are going to straight men's TikTok in order to watch this tiny population segment? I don't really understand.
I mean, it's not like TikTok is representative of the national population. It skews younger, it skews male. like a lot of social media, and so it's not, again, even the sample itself is not representative of like the general population. So that was my point.
Well, the
is
general
that-
population is pretty much
Wait,
straight.
hey, hold up.
right?
Mr. Slave has been waiting for a very long time.
right.
Let's let him go.
Yeah. I mean, everybody agrees. I can see that, you know, in the looks department, the first couple of seconds are important more than anything else, obviously. But in the long run, what makes a man attractive? You can say in the short run, medium run, long run. So in the long run, I think looks doesn't mean anything. There's many other things, but not looks. So what
Wait,
makes
could you
a
say
man
that again?
attractive?
Could you say that again? Did you say in the short term looks mean
In the
nothing?
short term, yeah. I'm becoming British now. In the short term, yeah, of course, you know, a hot guy shows up, and you know, everybody looks at him, even men. Everybody looks at him. He's nice to look at. But the question is, in the long run, what makes a man attractive in the long run, right? I'm not interested in a few seconds of interaction. I want relationships, long-term, meaningful, deep relationships.
And you're willing to pay for them.
What?
And you're willing to pay for them, right?
All right,
Sure, I'm willing to do many things.
let Mr.
Yes.
Slave
Random
finish.
ad homs don't add to the debate.
Yeah, let's let Mr. Slave finish. Okay,
It's not
go
an
ahead.
ad hom.
Wait, just let
It's
him
an
finish.
observation.
Hang on, just let him finish, dude. All right, go
Anyway,
ahead, Mr. Slave.
the looks are. It's an advantage to have good looks in the first couple of seconds, not more than that, in my experience, and in other men that I've seen. And in the long run, it's everything else. In the very long run, you just have to be very nice, confident. Obviously, you got to have money. You can't live, on the street, even though
Sense of
maybe-
humor.
Sense of humor, right? Yeah. So
Okay,
you got
I
to be a nice guy, but not looks. Looks are irrelevant very quickly.
All right, Wheat Waffles,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have a massive response to that, so I'll let you go next, then we'll go
Okay,
to you.
yeah. I have 2 points to make. The first one's really important. So number one, yeah, you did actually say something that has an element of truth to it. That in the short run, looks, of course, is going to be the most important by far. But then that kind of dissipates once you get to the medium and longer term. It's still going to be relevant, but in the long run, things like personality and money and status start to come into play a little bit more. But just look at the way that dating is heading at the moment. Online dating it's already mainstream. In fact, I could show you the data. I don't have it to hand, but if I could just remember the figures off the top of my head, the most common way people date nowadays is via online. So not meeting through warm approach or cold approach. It is online. And if you look at that environment, you've got like half a second to make an impression on a woman. This is why most guys get, less than 5 matches per week. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, you have to be in the top 10% of guys if you want to have any sort of success in online dating, because most guys aren't making that initial first impression, which is all based off looks. So, yeah, it could all be well and good, thinking that your personality is going to save you in the long run. But if you're not even able to get to that stage in the first place because you're getting weeded out at the very first hurdle because of your looks, then, it's no savior. Do you get what I'm saying on that point? I'll let you respond to that, and then I'll raise my second point.
I mean, in my experience, I don't consider myself good looking, but I'm getting a lot of hits on Tinder all the time. So, I mean, you have to look good, but it's not just looking good. It's you have to know how to smile. You have to know what types of pictures to upload. At the end of the day, when a woman looks at your picture, you're transmitting a whole story. It's not just you can. I mean, Alex has gone over men who look terrific in real life, but because of the photos they use on Tinder, they complain that they're not getting any hits, and then Alex teaches them how to fix it. And it's about telling a story. And so yeah, I mean, I don't have any stats. I'm sure very nice men.
Anecdotally, a friend of mine was not getting a lot of hits on Tinder, and then he changed his first line, like 5 reasons to go out on a date with me, and they were all funny, and his like interaction went up. So his pictures didn't change. He didn't change.
Well, how old was your friend roughly?
In his mid-30s.
He was in his mid-30s.
Mhm.
So, you know, the field opens up a lot more for men in their mid-30s anyway.
Right, but he was getting passed over with the same pictures before he decided to be a bit more witty and funny and light, as opposed to just a bio with it.
Gave himself some personality.
Well, yeah. And basically it was to try to make someone, you know, like make them smile, make them laugh, have a good first impression.
But do you think that if
That's
your friend,
interesting.
do you think that if your friend was just like dog shit ugly and then still had a great sense of humor, that he would have had the same results?
Well, I mean, he is losing his hair and he's got a bit of a podge, you know, and it's not like his pictures weren't cut. They weren't all like from the shoulders up, you know, they were full body ones. And like I said, he found it was more about how he first presented himself.
Or did he actually get good looking women?
I don't go on his dates with him. He was happy. He got a lot of engagement. He spent several
Well, I mean,
nights
it's
at someone else's
important
house,
because
so
if he's just like netting ugly broads, then like,
I guess, you know, maybe he was looking for a connection that wasn't just based on physicality, but maybe a different kind of, you know,
all
I mean,
men are
there
looking for a connection based on physicality. All of them.
Well, maybe the connection made physically isn't just about a certain body type or a certain age range, but about how a person holds themselves or what they're like. I mean, I know that you have a very dim view of men and women. I'm learning about you from this, but not everybody does.
Wait, I do. I have
Talk
a
about-
dim. Wait. I got it. Hang on.
Let's
Let me
Andrew
respond.
then we're gonna
So,
go to
because
the
I want to get in.
waffles.
What exactly do you think is my dim view of men or women? What I've said is factual and truthful.
You called them women snot bitches, I think.
No. I said that the modern woman,
who's alive today.
Western woman has become a snotty, entitled little brat. Yeah. And the reason for this is because
That's
they've
still an
been
insult.
trained. They've been trained that men, and it's mostly true, that men will kiss their ass when they're young and beautiful, and then they end up hitting the wall, and men aren't kissing their ass anymore, and they go, "Oh shit, what do I do? This sucks. My life is not good anymore." And that's a terrifically bad message to send to young women. They have like a superpower, a mega power, but it's temporary.
Fascinating fictional story.
No, it's not.
I mean,
It's not. Well, listen. Why don't we compare actual studies, stats, and figures then?
I wanted to get back. Also, your dim view of men is to reduce all men to basically, you know, not have any interest in
Christy,
what a woman's ideas are or thinks are, or want to have someone that they can talk to, someone they can share their life with.
Let her finish.
Well, I want to get back to the woman thing.
In that way, your question was, why do I think you have a dim view of men and women? Because I just think you tend to reduce them down to the worst stereotypes of culture and then falsely impute them on individuals.
Well, I think you're wrong, and let's go through it. And I think you're going to end up agreeing with everything that I'm about to say. Let's find out. Would you say that men are more attracted on average to women in their 20s or women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s?
Do you know what the ecological fallacy
Are you going to answer the question?
No, I'm just saying that the
do you know what answering a question is?
Andrew, let her finish. Let her finish, and then you can go.
Well, here's the thing is, when you talk about on average, you're aggregating up, which means that doesn't represent any one individual person. You're talking about
that's why we use averages, Christy.
Right, and that is a construct. It's a construct number that allows us to understand the mean. You could also go the mode.
But I'm asking about the mean.
There are a lot of different ways we can. There's a lot of ways we can drive up those descriptive statistics, but none of them are going to be able to allow us to know what's in a person's heart.
What do you think, again, Christy, do you think that men generally are more attracted to 20-year-old women or women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s?
If you've got data on that, I'd love to see it.
I'm just asking you, what do you think?
No, I would refer to the data.
Okay,
do you have some?
Yes, I do. I can produce. If you want something so obvious, if you want the data on it, I can give it to you, but it's not controversial. So can you just answer a non-controversial question?
Once you provide the data, yeah.
But
because here's the thing, you want me to go from stereotypes, not from information. I prefer to draw my conclusions from data.
Well, what would you if you had no? Let's just say for a second, we'll just keep all things equal. You had no access to any data ever again for the rest of your life, and somebody asked you what you thought. What would you say?
I think I would look up the data because I
just said data. There is no data.
I've got a great idea for a study. I'm sure somebody will fund this. I'm going to go out and ask some questions.
Why can't you just answer the question? It's so obvious.
She's still talking. Just let her finish. Let her finish, and then you can grill her.
The point is that you want me to appeal to a stereotype rather than data, and I won't do that.
Okay, so wait. you live your life only through appealing to data only?
When I can.
You don't make any observations whatsoever on
When it
your
comes
own?
to an empirical claim about what a group of people do, think, or say, there's got to be data on it, or it's a study that should be funded.
Okay, got it. So you think, and I'll pull them up and I'll send them to you. But
Okay.
then after I send them to you and you find out that men are mostly attracted to young women, which is the most uncontroversial statement anybody's ever made in the history of statements, let's assume for a second that that's true, that they are, because they are. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they're attracted mostly
So
to younger
what is
women?
the sample of man that I'm supposed to, you want me to engage in mind reading now? Do you realize how ridiculous that is?
No, I'm going to send you the studies right now.
Right,
for
but the
something that's
studies won't.
painfully
Okay,
obvious.
even if you're, when you produce your study, and let's say your empirical finding is there, how am I supposed to know what any individual man thinks? How would you? Why?
I'm not
why
asking,
would you?
I'm asking
Yes,
you.
you are.
I'm asking you. What do you think? Why do you think on average men are attracted to that?
Again, you're asking me to speculate on millions of men, and
You,
I don't
so
have
you
the
don't
data.
have you don't
No,
have
I'm
an answer to
saying-
any basic questions at all.
I'm saying the kinds of answers you're giving aren't based on data; they're based on your stereotypes and your biases, and that's not information. That's just
no.
Wait,
biased
Andrew, let her
opinion.
finish. Let her finish, dude. Come on, let her finish. Go ahead.
So your biased opinions aren't conclusions, even if you treat them like such.
Got you. Thank you so much for that, Christy. Let me
Yeah,
ask
no
you
problem, no
this,
problem.
because this is very important to me,
Yeah.
right? You do realize that everything that I'm saying is backed by data. You want me to send you the data, I can do that. I just think it's absurd that you would ask for data on something that's so apparent and obvious. And it seems like the only reason you are is because you don't want to actually engage with what I'm saying on the supposed dim views that I have. On average, men are attracted to younger women. It's not controversial.
Here's the thing is, in my field, when I make empirical claims, I have to back them up and cite my sources, and I hold myself to that standard. And if you're going to force me to answer a question on those terms, I'm going to keep my standards.
So
this is a YouTube debate.
So you want studies? You want me to produce studies for any observable
You said you
claim?
had them. Well,
I'll
give
them.
one.
Well, I'm going to give them to you. But again, I just want to make sure going forward, every time I engage with you on any claim whatsoever, even if it's obvious and uncontroversial, you want me to produce a study or data for it?
Here you're claiming to speak for what people say, or you want me to speak for what people say, or you want to make an assertion about what there is out empirically. I think this is getting really pedantic and boring, and we're leaving out a lot of people here. So I hope we can move on. I think I've restated my standards multiple times. Those are my standards.
Okay.
And I hold myself to them.
Do you have
a study for that though?
Okay, let's get back to Mr. Slave, because we kind of left him out to dry like a slave. So I'm gonna unmute his mic. Go ahead.
I mean, we were having a conversation. Everything that came up was I asked my queen. You don't want to share?
I mean, I actually agree with Andrew that it makes sense if men are more attracted to younger women, both physically, mentally. It just makes sense. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying for whatever, but it doesn't. Why wouldn't men be more attracted to younger women? They're young, they're vulnerable, like they're more attractive to look at. They're funner to be around because you get to experience new things with them that they haven't experienced. They don't have like pre-exposed stigmas like trauma and stuff like that. So they're not like, oh, I hate all men, like most older women are. They're more bitter because they've been hurt before. Like younger women, they're young, impressionable, exciting, attractive. Why wouldn't? It makes no sense, like, to me.
I'm going to answer the question from an evolutionary point of view.
You can find that data, by the way, in the private chat.
Okay.
But the highlight for that, just real quick, I got to give her the highlight. The highlight is that even by this poll, just this one, but I can give you as many as you want, 60% of men are attracted to younger women. Okay.
This is an online dating poll, we should say, right?
Wait,
what data do you want?
Real quickly, Wheat Waffles is going to go. Then we'll go to you, Andrew. You can explain the study. Then Christy can refute the study. Okay, Wheat Waffles, go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of evolution, the reason why men would be attracted to younger women is because they're more fertile. They're going to give birth to healthier offspring who are going to be stronger, increasing their chance of survival, to then they can reproduce. When women get older, the quality of their eggs decline. The offspring that they produce, if they have kids, are going to be more unhealthy, so they're not going to have as high a chance to produce. And once women get to a certain age, they stop producing eggs altogether, or at least stop releasing them. So it's going to be impossible for them to have babies. And what would be the point of a man being attracted to that? Because that it would be a fruitless effort to try to seduce that woman, because he's not going to be able to pass on his genes, because she's never going to be able to have children. So I think when you look at the question through that lens, it makes perfect sense for why men would be attracted to women between the ages of 18 to 25 the most.
All right, let's let Christy respond to that, and then we'll go to Andrew. And
hang on. There's two additional studies that are linked in there that express that men are mostly, by almost virtually every study that I can find anywhere when I've researched this, they're mostly attracted to women in their early to mid 20s. Doesn't mean they're not attracted to other women too, but it seems to be a universal constant that they like young, hot women. Okay, while that might be shocking to you, the rest of us go,
no,
yeah.
I'm just asking you to back. You're taking this as if I don't believe you. Here's the thing: is if you make an empirical claim, you should be able to back it up. And I'm glad that you
not if it's obvious. It doesn't need to be backed up.
And I'm glad that you admitted that it's not just
respond to Wheat Waffles and Andrew. Okay, go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, so it's also, I'm glad that you also qualified it by saying that it's not just younger women that men are attracted at looking at. It might be one of their more popular categories, but it is not. You're not narrowly defining men by this narrower age range. So,
okay.
So Alex, you make Christy answer my point.
Oh yeah, hang on, Andrew.
I just want to respond real quick, and then I'm done. Then I'm done.
Fine. Okay.
So I just want to say this one last thing, which is, yes, it's true. If you ask me for a study on something that's empirical, I should have to give it to you. I agree with that 100%. But it becomes pedantic when I say something that's obvious, and you say, "But my studies." It's obvious. It's here, obvious.
In the link that you gave me, it says, but there's another layer to this data. I'm reading from Business Insider. Although men at every age seem to be attracted to very young women, they most often message women who are closer to their own age.
Yes, but what are they the most attracted to? That was my point. Now who they're messaging. Who cares who they're messaging? Right. They're messaging who they think they have the best odds of getting.
Again, you keep thinking this is adversarial, and I just think that this is basic. Like, if you're
it's becoming adversarial because I can't have a discussion with you if I say the sky is blue and you go, "But my data."
No, that's not at all what I've said. I wish you would stop misrepresenting me.
Okay, let's let Wheat Waffles. Okay, we gotta keep it to limited to like 2 conversation threads because there's too many threads being weaved. All right, Wheat Waffles, you had a question. Christy was going to respond to the point you made. Christy, do you Wheat Waffles this point, or do you remember it?
Yeah. I want Christy to respond to my evolution argument of why men are more attracted to younger women. That's all I'm asking.
Well, I think my problem with Evo Psych it's that it's post hoc rationalization a lot of the time. Post hoc rationalization.
Can you just explain that quickly?
Yeah. So it's basically saying, there's what you're saying is that before the fact, because of after the fact that right now we're in a society where big boobs and big butts are currently hot, whereas like 50 years ago it was like a really rakish thin thing, that you're imputing on men things that you think men in the past would have found attractive. And I know that there are studies that look at skin being clearer and body shape and birthing hips and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is that we aren't living in primitive times, and that there's a lot of other reasons. Like, not everybody wants kids. I know this is a shocker, but some people, don't want to have kids. And so in that case, it just kind of throws out your whole logic for why Evo Psych would say they would get with someone.
Hold on a second. We might not live in primitive times anymore, but our minds are still going to be programmed the same way. You can't just unravel evolution overnight. Our minds are still going to be programmed the same, like as in the way that they would have been, over tens of thousands of years of evolution. Like, nothing's changed. We still have the same minds.
But what's attractive has changed.
No.
You
That's
think
not-
if you look at the
wait, wait,
1920s,
Andrew,
look at
hang on,
look at
let's
stuff in the
listen.
1920s, right? The whole 1920s was all about like barely anything at all. 1960s too. We go through these phases of kind of like having women being more curvaceous, and other times
Okay,
where they're
there
being
is
more
some
thin.
sort of
Well,
cultural shift. I'll admit there is some cultural shift, but it's not going to be like anywhere near in
But
comparison to.
I think it's pretty reasonable to think that wanting to have like not having rotting teeth, not having skin disease,
Okay, so if you're willing to accept those
so-
things, why not youth? Why not youth?
Well, I guess there's a high correlation between youth and those things, right? Between having clear skin and all that kind of stuff.
Wait,
I'm not.
So the things that correlate with youth, you'll accept are always going to be seen as attractive, but not youth in itself.
No,
It just
but I'm
doesn't
saying
make
no,
sense.
you're jumping to a conclusion. I'm saying that the reason, yes, that people who are youthful have those more often not possess those qualities unless there's been some like massive plague or something.
But wait a second.
So in terms, are we talking about what women find attractive in men?
Well,
So
no,
is
Christy, there's something you said there I have to address. So you are correct that there are points in history where there might be cultural things that happen where a specific feature on a woman might be found to be attractive due to some type of cultural conditioning. But it's always been true throughout history that men are attracted to young women. It doesn't matter if the cultural accentuation is right now big boobs are the thing or small boobs are the thing. They're still always attracted to young women because young women are fertile. That's how it works.
okay, so you think that all men want to get women pregnant?
I think that
It's a
on
universal.
average, the fertility of a woman is directly correlative to how attractive a man finds her. Yes. And that youthful appearance with the nice hips and all that.
So
Why do we
again,
find them attractive?
You're assuming that I don't think that youth could be a factor because I asked you for evidence, right? And I asked you for evidence to prove a point, which is that I want to know more than just your opinion. I want you to be able to empirically ground some of your opinions.
I did empirically
right?
ground my opinions.
And you did. You absolutely did.
But the thing, I didn't need to. It was obvious.
Wait, Andrew, let her finish, let her finish.
What you think is obvious and what I want to make sure that I understand what you're thinking about and what the data says and what the sample size was, right? Because these are important to me to make.
Which all backed up what was obvious?
No, it didn't back up what was obvious.
Yeah, it did back up what was obvious.
Because
let her finish. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't even actually at this point I don't even know what the question is anymore because off track. I don't know if anyone else is like, why are we back?
Let me restate this because
Andrew's mad that I asked him to back up his claim.
Because let me restate this one more time. Men have always been attracted to youthful women, always throughout all of history. Now I can't give you empirics for this other than great poems and what people have written down in times past, and the fact that, well, men have been breeding with young women because they're young and fertile. That's why they breed with them. That's why we have a human population. Now you might say,
I asked you to back up. No, don't only what I'm going to say because you don't know what I'm going to say.
But you did say you already.
No, I asked you to back up your conclusions. That's
okay. So here I'm backing up my conclusions. When I tell you that, when you say, oh, there's some cultural references that you can make where, oh, big booties are in right now. That's true. But they're still the most attractive for whatever men are into that on younger women. Wheat Waffles is 100% correct. Men want younger, youthful, vitality-based women. If they're single and they can get them, they will go for them. Why wouldn't they?
I think it always goes back to evolutionary psychology. Like, there's a reason why men don't find like ultra thin women as attractive as healthily weighted women, because when women get too thin, their periods stop altogether, which means that they can't, produce babies. They can't produce offspring. So why would a man be attracted to that? He's going to be attracted to the women that are, in more healthy shape.
Oh, who wants to address that?
Oh,
I think that was more directed at Christy.
Yeah,
I thought that was more directed.
I thought the question was, what do women find attractive in men? Right? Wasn't that the original question?
The question
we're
is
talking about what men find attractive in women. That's the topic that we're on at the moment. What men find attractive in women.
No. The initial topic of the debate was what makes a man attractive to women.
So we kind of got
Yeah,
far.
we kind of like deviate a little
Well,
bit.
I mean,
from
yeah.
that. We
Well,
start
hang
talking
on.
about
The two things
opposite.
are intertwined, though. It's not something that can be completely separated. So,
Okay.
you know,
Well-
obviously, there's only two sexes. So the attractiveness has to work. Don't
There are
conflate
what,
don't
intersex-
conflate gender and
intersex
sex.
people?
Christy,
What
let
about
him finish.
intersex people?
Well, let's talk about let's
Let
talk
him
about
finish.
intersex people. If you're talking about intersex people, you want to go down that road. They still, all of them, only have one reproductive sexual characteristic. Period. All of them. So they're all assigned male or they're all assigned female intersex because gametes are binary. All gametes are binary.
Again, being assigned to a category doesn't mean that you're actually
It doesn't
belong in that
biology.
category.
It doesn't
Well,
biology.
but biology doesn't make the rules. We make up those categories. We can change those categories.
Well, you're talking about the difference between something that's
I'm talking about phenotype.
Well,
I'm talking about
if you're talking about
phenotype.
phenotypes, then that can't be changed. If you're talking about the construction of gender, you can make up whatever shit you want. You can put someone in the leprechaun category if you want to, but sex,
But the fact that
sex can't be
intersex
changed.
people, right, but the fact that intersex people exist means that there are more than two categories. You
Okay,
can say
first
that
of
there's
all,
blondes and
intersex
brown hairs, but
people-
then there's redheads in the
Intersex
middle.
people
so you need a
represent.
category for
Hang
them.
on, intersex people represent 0.2% of the global population. That's one.
Still
Two,
a category.
all
Still a category.
Two, all intersex population, the entirety of the intersex population still can only ever produce one type of gamete at a time, meaning it's not hard to assign a male or female. And the reason is because gamete production is binary. That's why people can't impregnate themselves, Christy.
But people identify as intersex.
It doesn't matter how they identify. That's
It
not a
does matter
biologic.
how they
That's
identify.
not
Yes.
biological.
Wait, hold
It's
up,
not
hold up.
phenotypical.
Wait, everybody, stop for a second. Just a quick update. Mr. Slave had to go fold the dominatrix's laundry. He assured us he will be back in half an hour.
Okay.
I've never seen someone leave a debate to fold laundry, but I guess
Yeah.
first
I
for
have a
every-
quick question. How long
Go
do these
ahead.
normally go? Because it is getting to be like 10 after 11 my time here.
Do you have a time constraint? Do you have to go?
I could go like another 20 minutes.
Yeah, we'll go for another 20 minutes.
That'd be
Although what
fine
I
because
really
I'd like to get to some. I have some points to contest with Andrew afterwards as
Okay,
well. So
great.
if it gets to a point where it's just me and him, I would enjoy that because
Okay.
I think that he's probably got the.
You're
well,
not going
he's
to
the most
enjoy it, but I'm
intelligent.
going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay, so who was
well, I don't even know what we're debating anymore, to be honest. So if we
well,
can have a
let's bring
clarification
it
of
back
what
to the
question
initial
was.
topic. What makes a man attractive? I think Christy, you have some contention with what Andrew is arguing.
Yeah, I feel like we've done this one to death. I don't know how the other two feel, but
where are you guys at in terms of that? You feel like
Yeah,
this?
so I would like to move on to female entitlement, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so the topic number one is are women too privileged in today's society? So we'll just go in clockwise order. Andrew, you can kick it off.
Yeah, so Christy, I don't mean to come off as being mean or combative. It's just how I debate. It's my debate style. Okay, that's how we do it, right? It's blood sports. I don't know. That's just how I've always done it. That's internet debating for you. Okay, so don't take it personally. Okay, but that said, I have to say that modern women are pretty much whiny, entitled narcissists. And here's what I'll say, right? And pay attention to actually what I'm saying here. When women are young and beautiful, and you can see by all the studies that I gave you that when they're young and beautiful, basically every man desires them, or at least on average, most men desire them. Since this is the case, they seem to give them whatever the hell they want, and it builds into female narcissism. Now, if you don't believe me, we can back this up with other data for the narcissism and for their special treatment in society, like the fact that female serial killers get less of a sentence than male serial killers, for instance. The fact that women, when they commit crimes, they get far less in the way of punishment than men do. The fact that men are murdered at a huge rate in comparison to women, which you would think it would be the opposite, but it's not. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Young, beautiful women basically have the world handed to them. We have in the online community what we call simps. And what simps are those people like Mr. Slave who just give these women whatever they want. And when that builds into this narcissistic characteristic that they end up having when they hit 35, 40, that goes away. Suddenly, the door doesn't just magically open, and men aren't just gifting them with all the gifts and presents and attention and everything that they want. And they end up being lonely cat ladies going, what the hell happened in my life? And this is a huge problem in society that nobody really wants to talk about. But yes, females, young females specifically, are very much privileged inside of Western cultures and have been for a long time.
Okay, let's let Christy respond to that.
So I actually have some questions. So what do you think the term privilege means?
I think that it means that you're giving special treatment in comparison to the rest of either your demographic, society, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. And what percentage, again, not that you know, but that you just estimate, of young girls or teen girls or young women are attractive enough to get this sort of privileged treatment?
I think most women in their early 20s who are not morbidly obese will have preferential treatment given to them by most of society.
By most of society or by men in society?
Not just men. Even young women tend to want to emulate other young women who are getting these types of presents, things like this. And so the narcissism train continues.
So you think everyone from the age of like 16 to 24?
Not everyone, just on a high average.
Yeah.
And is it because they're young that they're? You think that they're attractive?
It's because
they're attractive.
It's just because they're young, attractive.
Well,
women.
I looking around the city that I live in, which has got like over 1 million people. There are a lot of women walking around, no makeup. Like they're not all dressed up. They wouldn't strike me as tens, right? I think the idea that
there's not that many. I don't believe
is
you.
So attractive.
I don't believe you that there's tons of young 20-year-old women walking around without their makeup and best dress on. They don't do that as a general rule. That's not how young women behave.
Like, where do you live?
I grew up in major metropolitan areas. Right now I live in the rural countryside, true, but who cares where I live now currently? I grew up in Santa Rosa, California. I grew up near Bakersfield. I've been all over the California demographic. I'm telling you right now, every major metropolitan area I've been to, I don't see young, beautiful women walking around with no makeup on, not looking their best when they hit the door. They all do that.
So when they go to they bike to work, or they go to do sports, or they're on their way to
they're still gussied up even then. Yep.
Yeah, that's just not my experience of reality. Can I just get a poll? Is every single, because that was not my life and not my experience. It wasn't my college experience, and I went through that age demographic that you're talking about. So I just find that sort of implausible. There might be. I'm willing.
When was it? If it was in the 60s, it couldn't have been. It couldn't have been, or 70s. It was still the same way.
Really encourage you to get out to a larger area and see a wider demographic. But I will say that in any distribution, there's going to be a high percentage. So we'll call them 8, 9s, and 10s, right? But then there are 7, 6s, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I think a fundamental flaw in your argument is that, again, you're overgeneralizing. I'm willing to concede that there are people, attractive people, men and women. Studies will show.
That's what an average is. It's a general.
Let me finish. Studies have shown that attractive people generally get an easier time in life. Men and women. Everybody who's attractive gets an easier time in life. But if that was the case, there would be it's not the case that all women are in that age group are attractive. And so I think to denigrate all women denigrate all women with this moniker and this label and the stereotype, which might be true of some, but is not true of a lot, again, is very demeaning to an entire group of people.
I don't care if the truth is demeaning to an entire group of people. That's one. And two, let me tell you again, here's where your logic fails. When you say, well, what about the 4s and the 5s when they're in their 20s? It's like they're still hotter when they're in their 20s than when they hit their 40s.
But your logic is premised on but your entire logic is premised on this idea that they get special treatment at a certain age.
They do.
If they don't get that treatment, then your argument falls apart.
Then it doesn't fall apart, because the 4s and 5s, even when they're in their 20s, are still going to get special treatment in comparison when they're in their 40s and 50s. But by the way, the young virulent, the young women in their 20s, even what they call the mids, right? The 3s, 4s, 5s, this type of thing. They still get treated far better and are far more privileged than males who are 3s, 4s, and 5s. This is my point.
Right. And so your contention is that college girls don't earn their degrees. They just waltz through university. They never have to take tests.
They don't get degrees in STEM fields. They get it in sociology and nonsense.
Once again, with the
you know how many female engineers an actual engineer like me has worked with? You want to hear how
let's,
many?
Let's talk about statistics then, because
Let's
it's not
talk about
as if
them.
the social sciences don't draw on survey data and regressions and time series
Yeah, let's
analysis
talk
and
about
all the other
so
things.
tell me how many women are in engineering fields, physical engineering fields. Like, let's say, for
I would
instance,
suggest we
electrical
get back to the
engineering.
topic.
Yeah, I would suggest you do too. You
Let's-
don't want to go down that road.
Yeah,
No.
well, actually, I kind of agree. Let's get back to the topic. So yeah, it goes back to privilege. Who's up?
So
Well, I've got
anyway,
something to say.
can I just? Sorry, I know I talked a lot, but can I just
Let's
say,
go
I
to
think,
Christy and then Wheat Waffles.
yeah,
Okay.
because I was supposed to speak and I asked Andrew, which I did concede my time, but I would just argue that Andrew's premise is entirely flawed, and that if you go out in the real world, you talk to people, you're not going to find that every single person is treated with this special privilege because of their age.
It's an
And
aggregate.
I'm not.
Andrew, let her finish.
And this idea that that there's a sense of entitlement that must necessarily transfer over, it just doesn't follow.
I have to respond to this. Do you think,
beautiful.
Christy, that white people are privileged?
So off topic. I think we
Do you think that white people are privileged?
I don't. Yes, I do. In America,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
America, I do.
Every single white person is privileged, Christy? Every single one of them is? Really?
Right, but then we're talking about a system. So if you can point, wait,
okay.
what system is privileging 20-year-olds and 24-year-olds?
The fact that they're 20 and hot. That's
Right,
the
but
system that proved it.
But the only people who would be affected by that are the men who find them hot and have control or power to give them things, right?
Yes.
So who's the real source of the problem here?
In this particular case, it's a combination. The issue is the narcissism of the women and in combination of the men who give into the narcissism
But
of
is
these
the
women.
narcissism a direct result of being given preferential treatment?
Oh,
by
yeah,
men?
of course it is.
Okay, so the initial causal factor is how they're treated by men, and then they respond because it works for them.
Is that the
And
same thing
that's-
that happens with
right?
white
I'm
people?
asking.
Is that people just treat us
no.
better because we're white?
Chill. Hang on, go ahead,
Right?
Christy.
So my point is that if you want to break the cycle, then denigrating women isn't the place to start. It's about asking men to look at how they treat women and if they give them special privilege, and to not do that.
Christy, you should really ask minorities to stop giving white people so much preferential treatment, and then we wouldn't be so
I know you
privileged.
want to change the subject. I'm only
No,
using
they're
your own
totally
logic.
analogous. They're
I'm
totally
only
analogous.
they're really not analogous.
Yes, they are, and I'm using
Okay,
the
Andrew,
logical
let's
analogy.
quickly explain
in
why
your
it's
case, the
analogous.
problem
So I'm going to
would be
try
white
real
people.
quick.
White people.
All right,
would be
hang
the
on,
problem in
Christy.
this
So
Let's
case.
let Andrew explain
So
why it's
her
analogous.
claim was that what I'm saying is not logical. My premise fails specifically because she attributes every single woman when we're talking about aggregates. We're just talking about averages. And she says, well, if it's not every single woman, she completely ignores the averages when we're talking about this being an average. But when I ask her, well, are white people privileged? Well, yes, I think white people are privileged. Every white person? Well, no, of course not every single white person.
No, I actually said every single white person was
Do you
privileged.
think every single white person is privileged?
Well, no, I don't know. That's
Okay,
right.
no.
Wait. I think every single white person in America benefits from white privilege.
Every single person in America could be argued to benefit
from
white
white
privilege. Every person could be argued to benefit from white privilege.
No, white people
Yes, they
definitely
could be
benefit
argued
from,
that
Can
way.
we keep on the topic? Please?
No, because this is
It's not
completely
linked.
analogous because we're talking
not
if we're talking about
linked.
systems for
Because
white
White people ruled
hang
things,
on, let's go
and
one at a
run
time. I
things,
do gotta
and then
say-
also ruled things and set up this norm where they treated, in your logic, young women better that gave them the sense of entitlement. So the source of the problem in both cases is that.
So it is minorities' fault for white privilege?
Let me step in for a second. So I do think that the analogy, the explanation Andrew gave is pretty reasonable why it's analogous. So I do think that it's somewhat on topic. So I'll let you go next, Christy, and respond to that.
Okay, so here's why it's not analogous. Right, what Andrew is talking about are daily social interactions of men and women. Right, he's not talking about university admissions. He's not talking about interactions with law enforcement on a systemic basis. And when we talk about white privilege, we're talking about a system set up first by white men and then upheld by white women, where white people got to live in nicer areas. There's not environmental pollution put in rich white neighborhoods. White people get an easier time in the justice system, even with arrest rates. And so we're talking about not only personal interactions, but the fact that there were lynchings that happened for decades, and that people who were responsible for that got away with those murders, right? So to kind of compare the privilege that a small percentage of women might experience in 10 years of their life to all women, and then saying that this comparison is somehow analogous to white privilege doesn't make any sense to me
It's
whatsoever.
analogous as far
I'll
as
let
what
Andrew
we're
respond.
calling systemic. And this
Okay,
is what we're talking about. And this is why it's analogous. So like you bring up these points and say they're not analogous, like law enforcement, for instance. Yet I just told you in our criminal justice system that young, beautiful women get a slap on the wrist for
That's
crimes.
a court system, right?
Well, the criminal justice
First of all,
system is the same type of criminal justice system that you would complain disaffects minorities over whites, right? These systems are analogous. And when I'm talking about privilege, privilege is privilege. It is analogous across the board. If you're going to tell me that white women are more privileged than minority women, which you would tell me that, Christy, we know that you would, then there's no way for you to say that those same women probably aren't more desired and have more privilege in society in general, right? Don't you think that white women have more privilege in society? They seem to be the most sought after woman in society, right?
I think I want to go back to your original point.
Of course you do.
Right?
You're not going to answer anything I just said.
No, I am going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to answer it on your terms.
No, of course not.
It's a different. So what you're, again, I'm going to try to explain this. What you're talking about are individual level interactions.
No, I'm talking about aggregates.
Wait,
No. You're talking here about
averages.
So there is no system in place that gives younger women consistent privileges.
There's no system in place that gives white people privilege.
Wait, hang on, Andrew. Let her finish, dude. Come on, go ahead.
Right, you're not, because so are there sex differences in sentencing? Yes. Do I think those should be equaled out? Yes. Right. I'm also for the draft for everybody. Right. So I'm an egalitarian in this way, but considering the not the thousands of years, but the hundreds of years of racist oppression in America from the top down, right? People have had to fight for their basic rights, and they're still fighting for them today. And the system that was built and put into place that we are reproducing today, that is making it so difficult to get true equality in America, is from like a structural, governmental, political, economic, religious standpoint, is not comparable to what you're saying is someone gives a young hot woman an upgrade on a flight because he's trying to flirt with her. I just don't see these two things as anywhere.
So the thing is that
and in the end of the day, it doesn't get back to your issue, which is you think that there is this narcissism out there.
Let me tell you how stupid
and I'm telling you,
this is insane to me.
Have you noticed that I've never insulted you?
If you compare, I said what you're saying is stupid, not that you're stupid. If you compare a peach and you compare an apple, well, they're not the same thing, Christy, but they are both still fruit. This is the same exact thing that we're talking about when we're making an analogy, a comparison between systemic, any type of systemic oppression, or in this case, systemic privilege. You think that whites are systemically privileged. I think that women, young women especially, are systemically privileged, that the institutions bend over backwards for them every single chance they get. And I have all the data in the world to prove that that's true. Just because you say, well, there's historical differences between these two things. That's true. There are historical differences, but they're still analogous because they're both still systemic.
What are some of your empirical examples?
Of which thing?
Well, so you had a very limited example about sentencing, which doesn't really affect a lot of women. Right?
Yes, it does. We're talking about
most
averages.
People in the population
do you know what an average is? What's an average?
Most people in the population don't get arrested.
Who do you think gets more tickets, men or women, when they get pulled over on average?
You're talking about sentencing.
Yeah, right? But let me ask you a question. So, on average, who do you think?
Stop asking questions.
Well, I'm trying to. Let me just ask this one. Let me just ask this one. Do you think that black men or white men get more tickets?
Stop. Let her finish. We gotta do the one at a time, and then you can ask all the questions. Go ahead, Christy.
So here's the thing: you were talking about sentencing, so that was one example that you pointed to. You said you have lots of examples of how younger women are privileged.
Yes.
So is it in their pay?
Yeah, it can be.
Do you have data on that?
Well, it depends on which metric you mean by pay. You mean like employer pay?
With starting salaries.
Yeah, it's on equal with men in their same type of fields. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I will be checking into that.
Yeah, you should.
So, okay. So what other examples of this sort of empirical systemic
Well, I'm
like
glad.
women know that when they hit 15, now they've got another, is it 5 years, 10 years, where they don't actually have to do anything because society is just going to give them a free ride. Again, this doesn't sound anything like reality that I know.
Well, I'm sure it doesn't, because it's the real reality, but somewhere between the age of like 17 and 26 or so, that's like the best benchmark, right in that arena. Now, hang on, Christy. So let me explain this to you. If I were to ask you, Christy, who gets more tickets on average when they get pulled over more, white men or black men? You would likely say, well, black men, right? But if I say the same exact thing for young women and young men in the same exact age group, pulled over the exact same amount of times, and the women get less tickets than the men, what would you say? Would you say that that's privilege?
Well, who's giving out the tickets?
Police.
Yeah, what's the demographic skew?
Black or white, doesn't matter.
No, men or women.
Well, most police officers are men,
right.
But even with women, even with women, they still get less tickets.
So these disproportionately male police officers are giving younger women an easier time.
Yeah, what a shock.
Okay.
Wouldn't you call that privilege?
Yes, I would call that privilege.
You would call it. So it is analogous then.
If you heard me, I said that early on. I agree that there's a percentage, like, when you talk about the 8, 9s, and 10s in your crude, the sort of like scale, right? But I'm saying that doesn't represent all women. And you're saying it's averages, but it doesn't come down to averages, because averages aren't real people. Real people are real people. And so what was the point of the...
Well, wait a second. It does come down to averages. You can't make a single point for why whites are privileged and systemic racism exists, except to point to averages. You can't make a single argument outside of that.
I never appealed to any average in any of my appeals.
But
so
I
far.
just told you,
though,
that
making up things.
What I'm saying is there's no way for you to make that argument without using averages, is there? Make it then.
There are a lot of...
Go ahead.
What am I supposed to be responding to? Honestly, I feel like I'm being interrogated. And also, if I'm honest, I feel like, Andrew, you can really make better arguments without insulting people.
Why do people always say I haven't insulted you once?
This is Chrissy. To be fair, this is like Andrew's style. I've debated him in the past, and he to be fair, he didn't insult you personally. He's just insulting your argument. That's just kind of his rhetoric. But I'll let him. That's just Andrew being Andrew. Nothing we can really do about that. I know you said you have to go, but if you want to stay on longer, we'd love to have you. But if you got bounced,
and I appreciate the conversation, by the way.
So here's what I guess, if I'm going to have a parting word.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I do believe fundamentally in the equality of all people, regardless of their sex, gender, religious status. And I think that is my core fundamental starting point. And the next step from that is respect, which is why I don't talk about men and degrade them, and I don't talk about women and degrade them. I think it's possible to criticize elements of society that generate individual behaviors that we find undesirable without demeaning people or demonizing them, or making them sound inferior to us so that we are superior to them. I think it's better when we try to create a society where everyone can flourish, and to look not only at again, the sort of idea of individual interactions. I can't really get into the whole individual level biases and systemic level biases here. But at the end of the day, I remain unconvinced that the problem with society, as Andrew would put it, is that women are deeply narcissistic and looking to use men. I just find that completely contrary to my entire life experience, which of course is anecdotal, but it doesn't represent the good people I know in my life and the people I care about. So I think that's really all I have to say.
Thank you for coming on, Christy. We appreciate you.
All right. Y'all have a good night. I will maybe stay up and listen to Wheat Waffles versus Andrew, because I know Wheat Waffles has been waiting for a 1v1 this entire show.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free.
Thank you, Wheat Waffles. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Alex.
Take care, Christy.
Appreciate your words. Thank you for coming on.
Bye.
So before we get into this, Wheat Waffles versus Andrew, I want to. So in the chat, there's someone I want to ask if you're cool with this, Andrew. Someone named Grace who really, really wants to debate you, but apparently you guys have some kind of personal history.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. Sorry, Grace.
Now hang on, because they're gonna clip this, so I want to make this perfectly clear, right?
Okay,
Grace is scum. And her dad pimps her out on his channel. I just wanted to make sure that if you clip it, you clip the whole thing in context. Your dad, Grace, pimps you out on your channel and thinks of you as scum. Anyway, go ahead, Alex.
Gee, wait, what's the? I think most people want to know the backstory. What's like? How do you?
They're just ankle biters who have been all over my channel. I debated her dad and absolutely destroyed him, and he hasn't left me alone since then.
Okay, sorry, Grace. Yeah, I did not tell Andrew ahead of time, so I have to honor.
As you can see, they stalk me everywhere I go, including here, which is fine with me. I have ankle biters everywhere. It's fine, but you're never. It's over. There's nothing more with you.
Yeah, Grace, I can't in good faith let you on if Andrew doesn't want to debate you. Because
stop stalking me, Grace. I'm married.
Yeah,
stop it, Grace.
I can't let you on because I didn't check with Andrew beforehand. That wouldn't be fair to the existing guests. But we can have you on another time. You can come on and you can say your piece. But yeah, I can't have you on if one of the people on the panel doesn't want to do it.
Your daddy's a pimp, Grace. He's a pimp. He's a Louisiana pimp, Grace.
I'm gonna have to start muting Andrew. All right. Anyway, so sorry, Grace. Anyway, let's get back into. Actually, let's take a bathroom break. It's got pissed real bad. But if you guys don't have to, you guys can get started. Wheat Waffles versus Andrew, and then Mr. Slave should be back in like 10 minutes anyway. All right, do your thing.
Yeah, I'm happy to get straight into the debate with Andrew. I actually asked.
Hang on,
Alex.
just a second, because you seem like you're a pretty balanced person, Wheat Waffles.
Yes,
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too.
Now I'm going to destroy you in every way when we're done with this, but it is a pleasure to meet you. I've seen some of your stuff on the channel. Well, so you don't seem like a complete fucking degenerate, so that's good.
Yeah, well, you say that you're going to destroy me. I don't think it could come anywhere close to the way that you destroyed Christy. That was, oh my god, I was losing brain cells towards the end of that.
Is she a lesbian? Is she a lesbian?
I don't know. I've got no idea, but
come on, she's a lesbian, right?
I don't know. I'm not going to comment on.
Just say it. Just say it. Come on. No, come on. Just say what they're all thinking. Just say.
Why don't you tell us about your history of Grace? That's what I think the audience wants to hear. Anyway, like what I was going to say about your debate with her, it just seemed like she didn't want to answer a straight question. Like you would ask her a simple yes or no thing, and then she would just start talking about something else.
Yeah.
It just I didn't like that about her. Her logic just didn't follow through. I thought your analogy was accurate. So
I appreciate that.
Like she just didn't want to. She just didn't want to concede any. She didn't want to concede any ground. But anyway, I wanted to have a debate with you.
Sure.
Because I watched your debate with Alex. I think you've been on his show twice beforehand.
Yeah, he's been a very gracious host to everybody at the Crucible, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I've watched the one I watched. He was talking about like sex before marriage and if it was okay or not okay. And I thought there was some good points from both sides, but I had a few like points that weren't brought up in the stream that I thought would have like definitely given you some food for thought, Andrew, and might have put you into a corner because I did think that you weren't convincing at times. So the point that I wanted to bring up was like at this point in the debate, you was talking about whether it is okay to have sex before marriage. And you said that they shouldn't because, well, actually, no. So I believe it was Kevin Ray Wilder said that they should be allowed because you want to know what you're into before you go into this lifelong contract. You want to know what, rocks your boat, basically. And then you said, that's no issue because you don't want to do that because you can just have a conversation with your partner about what sort of kinks you like.
That was actually Alex and Destiny that you're referencing.
Oh, sorry, I got confused with Kevin Ray Wilder.
Yeah,
and
no
Destiny
problem.
Then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Destiny made the argument that you want to
compatibility.
You want to find out an element of compatibility with your partner before getting into this lifelong contract. And then you made the counter argument. You said, no, that's not necessary because you can simply have a conversation with your partner before you get married about what you're into to find if you're going to be a good match or not. But I thought that argument was inherently flawed because it'd be like asking somebody what's their favorite type of chocolate if they've never tried chocolate. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how can you have a conversation with a partner who you're not married to, who you've never had sex with or done any intimate things with, how can you have a conversation with them about what they like in the bedroom when they've never actually experienced that?
Yeah.
Do you hear my argument?
Yeah, I do. So just so you understand, that wasn't directly my argument, but I know you're paraphrasing. So like, that's okay. It's okay to just kind of like paraphrase and summarize so that I can respond. But first, you need to understand that we're not trying to push for any type of criminality or laws or anything like this to say that a person can't have sex outside of marriage. That would be absurd. We're just asking that it not be encouraged. That's it. That's all. That's all that that our ideology pushes. Now, to your direct argument, you say, look, you can't just have a conversation with somebody and figure out what type of sex you're into. Well, listen, Wheat Waffles, here's my counter to that. And answer me honestly. I'm guessing that you probably had sex for the first time when you were a teenager, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you really give a fuck what type of sex it was before you had it? You just wanted to have it, right?
Well, yes.
Yes, right? So it didn't really matter what that you had never tasted chocolate before. You still knew you wanted to taste it, didn't you?
Well, yes.
So you knew that your preference beforehand, you knew exactly what it was, even though you had never experienced that thing. That's the flaw. That's the flaw in your counter argument.
No, but I think this is the difference that, yeah, although like what you're saying is like, I do partially agree with it. And there is like some element of it that, it just disappeared from my mind a second. It literally just sparked, but then it just went out right at the other end. It will come back to me in a second, but I did have a counter to what you just said. It's that, yes, yeah. So if you are, it's just come back. So if you ask people how their first sexual experience, what they thought of it, they would very scarcely say that was their favorite time or like that was what they wanted. And if you ask them if they had to put up with that kind of sex for the rest of their life, I'm almost certain that very, very few people would like agree to that. Like, because it's sex, your sexual preferences is something you learn over time. You find out what you're into and what kinks you like, the more experience you have and the more times you do it.
Okay.
So,
I get what you're saying. So let me answer directly to this. So just so that you understand the line of argumentation, because we can go down it, but you're not going to like where it leads. So I'm going to try to nip this in the bud, but then I'll humor you and we can go down it. Have you ever eaten a piece of dog shit, Wheat Waffles?
Well, obviously not. No.
Well, how do you know it tastes bad?
Because that's to do with evolution. That your humans are naturally evolved to stay away, well clear of feces of any
you
animal,
don't need
because
to
it's disease ridden.
So you don't need to eat a piece of shit to know that you don't want to eat the piece of shit, right?
Yes.
So you do know that you're not into eating shit, even though you've never eaten it before, right?
Yes, of course.
Don't you think that people's sexual preferences are also hardwired into them, and they pretty much know the things that they like or don't like before they have to go and experience it?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so if that's true, then why can't you have that conversation if you already know before you've ever even had the experience?
You can't just say if that's true when I disagree with that. People don't know what they're into until after they've had experience.
Well, no. See, then why haven't you eaten a piece of dog shit?
Well, no. Let me give a different example. Like, if you eat chocolate for the first time and you've never eaten it before, then yeah, once you have it the first time, you're like, oh, this is good. It tastes very nice. You get that dopamine release.
But why did you want it in the first place?
That might not necessarily be the most fulfilling.
But why did you want it in the first place is my question.
Because it was something that you wanted.
Right. Because it was something. How did you know you wanted it even though you hadn't experienced it?
Because it's like evolutionarily driven.
It's evolutionarily driven to eat chocolate.
It's evolutionary.
No, it's not.
It's evolutionarily driven to eat food because that gives
not
calories.
Chocolate. We're talking about chocolate specifically.
No, but it's evolutionarily driven to desire sex as a man with women because that's going to lead to reproduction. So it is a parallel. Can I make a point?
But I don't understand.
Let him finish. Go
ahead.
Yeah. So basically, what if you follow the ideology that you present, as in you shouldn't have sex before marriage, and once you have sex after marriage, then you're locked into that for the rest of your life. If you draw this comparison to the chocolate example that we're talking about, if you've never eaten chocolate before, and the first piece of chocolate is the only piece of chocolate that you're ever going to have ever again, yes, the first time you have it, you might enjoy it, but now you've got no other options. You have to deal with that for the rest of your life. You might have, if you gave it more time, if you had options to try different types of chocolate, you might have found something that you liked more than the one that you're stuck in a contract with for the rest of your life. Do you get what I'm saying out here? So just to be a little bit more specific, if the first piece of chocolate you eat is milk chocolate, but then, is Andrew on mute or something? Because it looks like he's talking, but I can't hear him.
No, I wasn't talking to you. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because let's say if, the first chocolate that you ever eat is milk chocolate, and then, this is like, if we assume this is like a marriage contract, the only chocolate you can ever eat from now on is milk chocolate. You're never going to know that you could have eaten a different type, like dark chocolate, which you would have liked even more so. But if you had the opportunity to experiment around, then you would have be able to taste all different types, and then finally have the one that you want to have for the rest of your life. That you prefer the most.
Yeah. So let's walk through the line of argumentation, right? My position here is that sex before marriage is not optimal. Not that it's not fun, not that it can't be somewhat rewarding, not that people aren't into it, but that it's just not optimal. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm saying that sex in a marriage and only in a marriage is not optimal. I'm saying that's suboptimal.
Why
because
do you
you're missing out? It's the opportunity cost.
Missing out. So let me ask you a question. Are you a hedonist? Do you only put every preference that you have as far as desire? Do you want to indulge every single desire that you have?
Well, I think sometimes morals come into play, which would prevent
morals come into play.
Andrew, let him finish. Go ahead.
Yes, of course. Like, it might be pleasurable for me to steal something that I desire, but I'm not going to do that because of morals.
But you've never experienced what would happen.
But what I'm trying to do with my argument is that guys should try to get the most life fulfillment that they can within the bounds of morals. So if a guy can get more life fulfillment by experimenting around with having sex with lots of different women at first, and then finding out what he likes, and then staying with that woman long term, not necessarily marriage, but in a relationship at least, then that's going to give him the most fulfillment. He's not broken any morals in that example that I've just gave.
He has. Well, no, he has. So my whole position here is that the Bible says that it's immoral to have sex outside of wedlock, right?
No, but that's just your religion.
Okay,
no disrespect, but
okay, got it. I got it.
I don't. I'm
just
not
stop. Wait, listen.
Wait. Just
I'm trying to walk down. I'm trying to walk you through this so that you understand. If I do that, I have done something immoral, right?
Yes, according to your religion, you have, but under my non-religion, I haven't.
Wait, Andrew, let him respond.
I already know what he's going to say.
It doesn't matter if you know what he's going to say. You suspect what he's going to say. Just let him respond. Then you can
right, fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Is in according to your religion, what you, it would be immoral for you to have sex outside of marriage. But I don't have your religion, so
I get it.
You try to provide an argument.
Yes,
outside of the scope of religion.
Yes, but I can't if you bring up morals. So here's the thing: you have to distinguish these two things. If you say, well, within the confines of morals, you can't do X, and I say, okay, well then I think my moral system is best, and within my moral system, you can't do X. You have to contend with that if you want to make a moral argument. But if you're just a hedonist and you think that it's okay to just do whatever the fuck you want, not constrained by morals, I need to know, what's your moral system? What is the moral system that
you don't have to be
follows?
Religious? You don't have to be.
Yeah, what's your moral system?
It's just, well, it's not tied to any sort of religion. It's just about being
a decent, what is it tied to?
Kind person that you're not, impeding on anybody else's life. Like,
so, what is the moral
their rights?
Okay, so the moral system is based around harm.
Well, so as I say, go back to the example. I wouldn't steal because it's immoral to steal because that's
Why?
impeding on somebody else's
Right.
like liberty. Somebody has a right to keep in possession what they already own
What gives them that right?
because it's theirs and it's not mine.
What
There's
gives
no,
it?
there's no
What
religious.
gives them that right?
Well, I know where you're going with this. Like, you know, that I'm basically giving a baseless set of morals that is essentially
totally.
anarchy, but I'm allowed to have morals without, you know, any religion.
Well,
you don't have to be religious to have morals.
Well, but what are they grounded in? How do I know they're moral?
Well, as I say, it's an impossible question to answer
It's
because
not.
there isn't
Ask me and
any
I'll tell
religion
you.
there isn't any basis of religion that can form the foundations of my morals.
You are wrong. The ethical system that we follow is deontological in nature. It's a universal set of morality. So when you ask me, what are your morals grounded in? I can tell you specifically where they're grounded, what they are, how they're grounded that way, and why they're grounded that way. When I ask you, you go, I don't know.
Let's let Mr. Slave jump in because I think he has. Mr. Slave, you have to mute yourself. He has something
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Andrew says that his moral system is universal, he says it, so it's subjective. The fact that he says that it's an objective moral system, well, he said it. So if he said it, it's subjective. It's just as subjective as my moral system, whatever it might be, or anybody else's. There's Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think makes it subjective?
The fact that you said it, it's your opinion that it is objective. But
Is the set of values universal?
Well, if you think that, right, you think that it is universal, so you think it. So
no, I'm just asking you, is this set of values that's postulated that millions of people worldwide, actually billions of people worldwide follow, these are universal ethics, right? Universal ethics. The difference between universal ethics, you should always know what a Christian will do in an ethical situation before he ever does it. That's what makes them universal ethics. Wheat Waffles and Alex, on the other hand, you don't actually know what they're going to do in a given situation because the morality is not universal. It's not based on anything. There's no grounding.
Hold on a second. Just because you're religious doesn't mean that you're morally superior to anybody else. There's plenty of people
talking about
that
moral
are religious.
superiority.
There's plenty of people that are religious who commit crimes and murder people.
There are.
Likewise, there's plenty of people that are non-religious who don't commit crimes, and there's plenty of people who are non-religious who do commit crimes.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have, you know, all four quadrants at play.
Yeah, but you're missing the whole point.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that there's good people on either sides, people that are religious and aren't religious.
I also agree with that. And it has nothing to do with what I'm saying, which is that you can posit a universal ethical system. You can do that. Even non-religious people have universal ethical systems. Utilitarianism might be one. There are several ethical systems that could be labeled as universals. What I'm saying is that you yourself don't follow any of those universal ethical systems. So we don't know what your ethics are. We don't know what your morals are. We have no idea what you're going to do in a given situation. We do know what Christians ought do in a given situation. If they don't do it, we know that that's an immoral thing.
Yeah, so why does my ethics have to be grounded in the system? Can't I just have my own ethics that I think this is moral, this is immoral?
Yeah, if you're a moral relativist, you can.
Because even like the non-religious systems, like utilitarianism, like surely, you know, there's going to be somewhere along the line, somebody's cut a line in the sand and said, this is utilitarianism. You know, these are the morals that, you know, follow this ideology. Therefore, like these things are moral and these things aren't moral.
Okay,
like it's always going to be invented by somebody.
No, it's not invented, and I'll tell you why. It's a matter of justification, right? You think stealing is wrong. I think stealing is wrong. My justification for it, though, is different than yours. So what? Hang on, Wheat Waffle. Hang on, and you too, Mr. Slave. I'll ask both of you this: what makes stealing wrong? And then whatever your justification is, we can look at it.
I already answered that question. I already answered that question earlier, because I don't have a right to impede on somebody else's ability to possess something.
Then let's follow that backwards. Let's follow that backwards, right? So you don't have a right. Now, what gives somebody a right?
Well, it's his right to own things.
What gives him that right? Where does
Nobody
that
else
right
can
come
take-
from?
There are no rights.
Right.
It's
There are no
might makes right.
rights.
There are no rights.
You don't
Even
have a
according
right to
Well,
do
this is- no,
anything.
but this is what you need for a
I mean-
functioning society, though. Like, this is why we have laws, because otherwise you just have anarchy. You can't have anarchy because people
Why
would
can't
just
you
be
have
stealing
anarchy?
everything. Because people would just be stealing everything.
And stealing is
And-
bad, right?
Yeah, because it would impede the functioning of a society.
It would impede the functioning. So is the entirety of what you ground your ethics on impeding the function of society?
Well, not just.
Then
Well,
what
obvi-
is it?
obviously-
Then what do you
I'm-
ground it on? That's my question.
Well,
What are you
I haven't
grounding
actually-
your ethics on?
well,
Andrew,
I feel-
would
I
you
feel
would
like
you
I-
mind if I give Wheat Waffles a little tip? Because I know. Would you be opposed to me doing that?
Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah,
can
so
I just
he's
say
asking-
one thing? I feel like I'm being put on the spot here because
You
like,
are being put on the
haven't-
spot.
Yeah,
Wheat
because
Waffles. Let me
I'm
kind of-
not educated in philosophy or ethical
So
systems
let me,
or anything like
Alex,
this.
let
so-
me
Wait, hang
handle
on.
Andrew.
I will right after me. So Wheat Waffles. So basically what he's getting at is what is all your philosophy, what your sense of right or wrong is grounded in. So you could say something like the non-aggression principle, right? Which is probably, to me, it sounds like that's kind of what you believe is because when you steal from someone, you're committing aggression against them, right? And that is bad, right? Or it could be something as like utilitarianism, right? Although that's not something personally I would come from, but he's just trying to figure out what is your worldview, based in. And I understand what you're saying, Wheat Waffles. You're like, well, I haven't studied philosophy, so I don't know the formal name of the thing. I can just describe it, but I don't know the name of it, right? So that's kind of the schism that's going on here. Wheat Waffles just hasn't studied philosophy, so he doesn't know what his ethics
Well,
are.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not even really trying to get into some philosophy bro debate. All I'm trying to say to you, Wheat Waffles, is this, and I say this often on my show. The most important question a man could ever ask himself is why he thinks a thing is good or why he thinks a thing is bad, and what his justification is for that. That's the delineation between what makes a man moral or not. And so when I ask you these things like, why do you think that such and such is wrong? You are giving me what's called a presupposition and saying, I think it's wrong because it's wrong. Well, that's not really an answer. So you have to dive in deeper and find out why it is. What is the thing that you justify your claims with? What is the thing that makes you tick and makes you think that these things are actually wrong? What do you ground it in? And you don't really have the answer because most people haven't thought about that.
No, but couldn't I go the same
Yeah.
line of reasoning against you and ask you the exact same questions? And we can
Yes.
just keep going back and back and back and back.
No, because
And
I have
eventually you're going to be
justifications.
cornered. Well, no, because if I ask you why is stealing wrong, and you say, "Oh, it's because it says it in the Bible."
Yep.
Oh, well, why is the Bible the gospel? Why is the Bible the be all and end all? Like
Because of meta ethical truths. That's why the Bible is true. That's why God is true, because of meta ethics.
Why is the Bible a representation of meta ethics?
Well, it not only is you have to start with question one: how do you know that there's a God? And this is because of meta ethical truths.
Okay, we're getting a little off.
You see,
Let's-
where I'm
let's-
getting with this though. Like,
We're
as in, you can try to corner me and say, how do you know what?
You haven't cornered me though.
That stealing is wrong. No, but what I'm saying is that I could go the exact same way against you,
And
but
you
with
should.
regard to your religion.
You should.
Yeah, and I just tried to, and you saw the way that it was just starting to go about. Like, you could try to justify why your religion is right, but eventually you're going to get to the point of, yes, it's just because somebody invented this religion.
Nope. It's because you're going to deconstruct backwards enough to figure out what's true and what's not true. It's called transcendentals. You can't account for transcendentals. And because you can't account for transcendentals, you have no way to determine what's true and what's not true. Everything in your worldview is just preference.
Oh, let's let Mr. Slave go. Come on.
Yeah.
You're muted, Mr. Slave.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Andrew, let's pick it up. Okay, so I claim that
Where's the chick, dude? She's letting you talk.
She was not enjoying the debate. Okay.
Oh
ahead.
no! Did you go fold her laundry? Did you go do that?
Come on, dude. Let the guy talk. Go ahead.
All right.
I did not finish folding the laundry. I'll finish after, but I picked it up. So, Andrew, your religion is your preference. Just as, whatever I choose to do in my life, it's my preference. Everybody has his preference. So billions of people prefer a religion, your religion. Fine. It's just a preference, just like mine.
It's just a
Just like the
preference.
Nazis, by the way.
It's just a preference, just like the Nazis, huh?
Yes, there's no
Yeah.
difference between you and the Nazis, or me, or anyone, or the puppy.
So you're just like a Nazi, Mr. Slave?
We all are. We all are just like the Nazis. Yeah, there is no.
You're a Nazi, Alex?
I don't know. My Jewish ancestors would not be happy if I say yes, so I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
I mean, the Nazis wore underwear, and so do we. The Nazis had self-preference, and so do we. There are things that we are similar to the Nazis. So in that respect, we are identical to the Nazis. Me and Hitler share wearing underwear as a common property. We
Okay,
also
so-
share self-preference as a common property.
So
Yes,
let's
I am
just
like Hitler in
assume
that, and you are too.
Yeah, so let's
You're
just
really
assume for a
choosing-
second. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
No, you choosing your religion, however beautiful you think it is, that's just your self-preference. That's what you prefer to do on any given day. That's fine. That's no. I
Hey,
prefer.
let me ask you a
Mhm.
question.
Go
Is
ahead.
there such thing as objective truth?
Is there such a thing? In general, I mean, I cannot know because everything I know is subject to me. I am the subject of the knowing, so by definition, it's beyond my comprehension.
So how do you
whether
know if
there
you're
is or there
real?
isn't. What?
How do you know if you're real?
How do I know if I am real?
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's to me it's true, but it's still subjective. Obviously,
It's still
it is
subjective.
What?
Yeah. What makes
Yeah,
you different from Alex? Are you and Alex different people?
I ultimately, when it comes to the truth, I don't know that Alex really exists as much as I
No,
know
are you
that-
different people though? Do you think that you and Alex are different people? Is that an objective truth or is that
As
subjective?
far as I know, me and Alex are. I don't know about absolute truth. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, right?
don't
Because
know.
at the end of the day, it's subject to me. I am the subject of knowing. So I only know about whatever I am the subject of. This entire universe is between my ears. I have nothing. I don't know anything else besides that.
So we
So
don't
it's
even know if you really even exist right now. If you're even having this conversation, we don't know if any
By
of this is even
definition-
objectively real. It could all be fake.
I mean, the word object. I don't even know what the word objective means. Right?
You don't know what the word objective means?
Yeah, because all I know is what I know. Subjective.
How do you not know what the word objective means?
Objective means outside of me.
So you
I
do
mean,
know
it's-
what it
I mean,
means.
what?
So you do know what it means.
Do I know what it means?
No, you do know what it means. You just gave me a definition for it.
But I don't know anything outside of me. All I know is is my experience of this universe. So this entire universe is my subjective experience.
It sounds like you're just coping to make a justification for any of the terrible, horrific behavior you want to engage in that you can't actually justify as being moral by saying, well, it's all subjective. No one can really make any moral claims when it's not true. People can make moral claims. And people make them all the time, and you live by a guided set of morality yourself, and so does every other human being. It's just that they can barely justify it, except to justify their own terrible behavior.
No, but surely every single person's moral code is grounded in
Wheat
nothing,
Waffles,
even
let me-
religious
I'll-
ones. Like
let
even
me
even
just-
religious
Wait,
grounds.
Mr. Slave, well, let's let Wheat Waffles go and you're after him.
Like,
okay.
go ahead.
Well,
Every single person's moral code is in theory invented, like even the religious ones, because the universe is just a universe, isn't
Look,
it? Like, there's no.
I don't want to. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because it's not fair. It's not fair to you guys. Like you just,
I agree.
You
with
actually don't know what the hell you're talking about. So we're just gonna X out of that rabbit hole, and I'll just be really surface level with my argument.
No. I
Argument.
need to reply.
that. Okay, let's let Mr. Slave go and then Andrew. Go ahead.
So, Andrew, what you said that I am just justifying, I choose whatever I choose because I'm just justifying because of my immoral life. That is literal ad hominem. You have to ignore my existence and my lifestyle.
I do.
I explained to you, I did the best I could to explain to you why I only know of a subjective experience of the universe. And as far as I know, so do you.
Well, you're
You
wrong.
have to reply to that.
No, you're wrong. So again, it's because you can't. You have no accounting Okay, why don't you understand this? You're a moral anti-realist. You don't believe in any type of objective morality, but only because it suits your lifestyle to not believe in objective morality. But when it suits your lifestyle too, you will believe then in objective reality. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Slave. Is it wrong to be a pedophile objectively?
There's no objective right and wrong. So the
So
question is
no.
malformed.
So the answer is no. It's not actually objectively
No,
wrong to
the
be a
question is
pedophile.
malformed because we haven't defined objective right and wrong. It's undefined. I only know subjective.
Okay, so in your worldview, is it subjectively wrong to be a pedophile?
Mm,
You don't know.
I mean,
Is that confusing for you?
We would have. I mean, what's the definition? So I heard a debate today.
Somebody who has sex with children would be the definition of a pedophile.
Okay, that's not what you asked. So the question is it right or wrong to be a pedophile? So So somebody asked a question. I don't remember. It was Vegan Gains or somewhere around there. So let's say let's say you're given a hypothetical. I'm sorry about the hypothetical. That
Just a no. I'm looking for just a no. Can you just say no? That's not okay?
No, I will
can't.
not. I will not concede because let's say you can save the whole world. Let's say an aliens come and they say, you have to rape this 4-year-old girl or we will destroy the planet. You have 1 second to decide.
Can we not get into raping 4-year-old girls?
Yeah, whatever.
Let's stick to 12-year-old girls at least.
So let's just say all things equal, there is no such thing as that, right? And it's just everything stays exactly the same. Is it okay to be a pedophile, Mr. Slade?
So you're refusing to answer the question, but that is fine. I don't.
No, I'll answer to that hypothetical too. And even in that hypothetical, it would still be immoral to do.
Fine, then that's your answer.
Now back to you. I'm asking you specifically.
It's not
is it
right
okay?
and wrong.
What about fucking a dead body, Mr. Slave? Is that okay?
In my book, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sure you don't, right? I'm sure you don't have any. What about you, Wheat Waffles? Do you have a problem with people engaging in necrophilia, or is that problematic for you?
I've got honestly no idea.
You don't know if having sex with a dead body is wrong?
Well, it's nothing that I would do personally. Like, I don't know what the law says if that's like, well, I'm guessing it's illegal and you get arrested for it, but I've got no idea, honestly. This is out of my...
You can't answer if having sex with a dead body is immoral? You can't answer that, Wheat Waffles?
Well, I'm allowed to not answer your question.
You are allowed to do that, but I'm still asking it. Like, can
my
you engage
answer is
with
that
it?
I'm not going to answer the
You
question
don't know.
because it's out of my range of like topics. That
For the record,
Alex, hang on, I gotta know. I gotta finish the circuit. Alex, is it immoral to have sex with a dead body?
Playing with fire's official position of fucking dead bodies is that it is highly discouraged. We prefer to fuck women who are alive.
Well, wait, no, is it immoral?
PWF position.
Is it immoral?
I think it's gross as fuck. I don't know if it's immoral, but it's
you don't know. So Alex and Mr. Slave and Wheat Waffles, all three of them, don't know if it's immoral to fuck a dead body. And you go to me and you go, well, wait, my subjective morality is superior because it's just everybody should do whatever they want. You can't even answer.
I think it's gross. I think it's a victimless crime, but it is gross as fuck. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of why I'm at with that.
Oh fuck! I just can't even believe that you guys are biting these bullets, man.
All right, it is my preference to be murdered and to be and for my body to be sexually abused. That is my preference. So there you go. If that answers your question. But if I want to have sex with a dead woman,
well, does that mean it's moral to do to somebody whose preference that's not?
I mean, once they're dead, so they're dead. There is no preference. But
So wait, we can mutilate the dead bodies too?
No. My morality is, it's what is literally popular. I mean, I prefer to be, a good citizen of this earth, of this universe. And, there is a balance of, right? There is this balance. There's this, everybody has his preferences. So within this universe that everybody has his preference, we have, society doesn't, in polite society, we don't have sex with dead bodies. So therefore, I think it is wrong. It's just a popular wrong. It's just not popular. That's
about
how I would
roadkill?
define wrong.
Can you have sex with a dead animal carcass? Is that immoral?
I don't know what I refuse to concede on immoral. I mean, morality is just.
How do we get into
subjective
fucking like
preference.
dead things, carcasses, and whatnot? I think this is getting a little off topic. I do
Well,
want to wrap.
wait, it's the most on topic we could possibly be.
Fucking dead animal.
These guys, and you, Alex, can't give me a direct answer. You can't say yes or you can't say no to whether or not it's okay to dig up a corpse and have sex with it.
Hang on. You asked me.
Fucking crazy bastards.
Hang on, that's not true. You said, is it immoral? I will 100% say it is wrong because it is disgusting. But you asked me,
well, wrong is immoral. Wrong. Yeah. Well, I'm using it as a,
okay, if you're using it very loosely, then yes, I will.
I'm using it as the same word in this particular case. But let me just rephrase. You can't answer whether or not it's immoral to have sex with a dead body. Dig up someone's grandma and have sex with the dead body.
I think it is wrong to have sex with a dead body. I think it is disgusting. Is it immoral? If we talk about place of from my morality comes, is there harm being done? Is someone being hurt? There's no one that's actually being harmed. It's absolutely disgusting and you shouldn't do it and it's wrong. But is it immoral? I don't really have a good answer to that.
You don't have a good answer.
I'd probably say a similar thing. If I'm honest, I just haven't thought about it. There's so many things out there.
And what did I tell you? The most important thing was for a man to think about. Most important thing for a man to do was decide what the justifications for his morality and what is right or wrong.
No, but how about this? If I don't know if something is right or wrong, then I just wouldn't do it anyway. Because I wouldn't take the risk. But if I know something is 100% wrong, then I definitely won't do it. And if I know something is okay and right to do, then I'm in my free will to do that thing. But if I'm on the fence or something, it's never going to come to a point in my life where, I have to have sex with a dead body. It's never going to be a confrontation. So it's not a problem. And I don't even need to answer that question, whether I should do it or not, or if it's immoral or not, because I'm never going to have to be confronted with that experience.
Are you ever going to murder anybody?
Of course not.
Well, then, if you're never going to murder somebody, why would you have an answer as to whether or not murder is immoral if you're never going to be confronted with it?
Because if somebody murders someone that I'm close to, then of course, that's going to impact my life, and that's going.
What if they have sex with your sister's corpse? Will that impact your life?
This is just such unrealistic example.
It's not unrealistic.
It's never going to happen.
Wait a second.
Okay, no, but you could milk examples till the cows come home. There's going to be a million different things that might be immoral.
You're not answering the question.
I am answering the question. I am answering the question. What I'm saying is that there's going to be a million different scenarios out there where I could ask myself, "Oh, is this moral? Is this immoral?"
You need to answer each one of them.
No, but it's completely unfeasible because, and the reason it's unfeasible is because 99.9% of them. Let me finish. Is that 99.9% of these scenarios have a 0.00000 recurring 1% chance of ever happening. It's quite common in the real world. I'm pretty sure hundreds of people get murdered every single day.
Wait, Mr. Slave, let me finish.
Mr. Slave, just let me finish. I am answering the question. So every day, hundreds of people are murdered. So it is quite an important thing to know if it's moral or immoral to know if somebody's murdered. But for all of the other things, the other million other scenarios that could happen to my life, I'm not going to bother answering each and every one of them, whether they're moral or not, because I'm just going to see when the time comes. If and when this 0.0001% chance happens, then yeah, that's when I'll give it a bit more thought. But at the moment, I'm just not going to give thought to this.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer the question.
What do you mean I'm refusing to answer the question? My response to the question is that I'm refusing to give thought to I'm refusing to give thought to whether it's moral or immoral.
Right, you're not going to think about it.
You need to answer the question, Wheat Waffles. You entered the debate. You cannot. If you're not going to answer questions, why are you here?
Everyone has the right to answer or not answer questions that they choose. If he doesn't want to answer the question, that's fine. Okay, I do want to wrap up because we're going on 2 hours. So let's do closing thoughts. We'll go in clockwise order. Okay, go ahead. You can kick it off, Andrew.
Yeah, so I always enjoy going on Alex's channel and mixing it up with the degens. And they are indeed fucking degens, okay? But I think we can pull Alex back from the brink. I see hope for him
I'm
in
a
the
lost
future.
cause,
We
man.
do engage a lot, and he does actually think about these problems outside of this. He thinks about them a lot. He'll never admit it, but he does. And so this is why the Crucible always reaches out. And I'd like to engage again with Wheat Waffles on some of these topics. I always enjoy giving direct answers to questions. I didn't, we ended up kind of going down like a rabbit hole, but I do want to give direct answers to your questions that you might have, and we should have some type of future engagement about it. But I appreciate your guys' time. The last words of wisdom that I'll leave everybody in this panel with is that Slave's a fucking degenerate. There's going to be heads in his freezer. He's a fucking freak. You should get as far away from this guy as possible. That's pretty much my closing on that.
All right. Wheat Waffles, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to debate in the future. But if I'm honest, like this, a lot of the topics that we've been speaking about in the last 30 minutes, like have been outside of my intellectual range. I've not really done any research into like this philosophy stuff, so it was a unique experience, like trying to discuss them and piece together arguments for things that I've never even spoken about. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm allowed to enjoy my life like any way I please. Like, I don't need to think about the points that we've been addressed with in the last 30 minutes. Like I think all that matters is that if I'm okay in my own skin, I have my own moral system that I believe is okay, and I'm getting life fulfillment, then I don't need to engage in those debates. It's just a waste of time, in my opinion. So as for whether I'll debate the topics again that we've discussed, I don't know about that, but I did have a couple of other things that I wanted to debate with Andrew in future. Hopefully, we might be able to get them in future, because like I think that this is something that I thought a bit more about, and
I
I'd
will
like to
come
get
back
Andrew,
for those. I promise. My word on
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's it basically.
Mr. Slave, closing statement.
Yeah, I'm very upset at Wheat Waffles. Instead of just saying I don't have an answer and shutting up and letting me confront Andrew and mop the floor with him, you wasted everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Andrew and Mr. Slave on a team together, that's something I thought I would never see.
You didn't see it.
I'm an expert in philosophy. I can mop the floor with Andrew without even hearing what he's saying. I mean, but Wheat Waffles had to go on a rant about how much he doesn't need to give answers and on and on and on. Instead of just saying, I don't have an answer, I'm sorry. Shutting up and letting me attack Andrew and destroy him. Thank you, Wheat Waffles.
We need a debate where Andrew and Mr. Slave are on the same team. That would be a sight to be seen. Okay, cool. Awesome. Appreciate y'all. Thanks everyone for coming on. So we're probably gonna do another speed dating thing tonight. All right, quickly, everyone.
Wait, can you like shamelessly plug yourself for a second? Yourself, not us.
I was just about to get to that. Hang on a second. So we're gonna be doing the
Alex, when we do a speed date tonight, my queen is asking.
Okay, yeah, she can come on. Yeah,
it's
gonna be later tonight. So yeah, probably at 9 o'clock. Okay, now you guys can plug. Okay, Andrew, plug your channel.
I was saying you should plug your channel because you're in front of my audience. I was saying
you should. Yeah, Playing with Fire. We do DGen type of advice. If you guys want to come over to our side, become a DGen, you can join Playing with Fire. But yeah, okay, you guys.
Okay, so let me plug mine. I'll start by saying John Anthony's a bitch. He got wrecked by yours truly right here on PWF's channel. Also, I did a wondrous hit piece on him. I'm going to publish it soon. Lots of people got to see it live. There isn't a damn thing he could do about it. If he wants to sue me, that would be just wondrous, John Anthony. Bring it, right? I'm not confrontation avoidant. Happy to have you on and wreck you in person again. You can find me at The Crucible. I am the host of The Crucible, where we host lots and lots of debates, some trash talks, whole mix across the board. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. Alex at Playing with Fire.
Thanks, man. Wheat Waffles, where can they find you?
Wheat Waffles YouTube channel, and that's it. I'm not on any other platform.
Cool. The Slave?
Yeah, I mean, this is our channel. Everyone, everybody's wrong about everything, but my queen's Instagram got blocked yesterday, so she has a new one. Maybe Alex, can you change the name? Maybe it's NYC_femdom, FEMDOM.
All right, 1 second.
MME.
NYC
Hold on, we're checking if it's.
No, I'm telling you, I know
Oh,
where it is.
FEMDOMME.
Wait, hang on. Slow down. FEM, then? Yep.
DOMME.
ME. Okay. There we go. Bam. Done.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.